Last on Everdark. Julian and Damon take a tour through the Vampire King's palace. Among the many wonders, the Everdark anticipated one more large change. Instead of one throne, there are now two. Now we turn to Caemorn as he goes to the Callie Palace. Episode 134, kind of déjà vu. Caemorn stared up at the Callie Palace as he held the Harrow soul gems in his right hand and slowly rotated them around his palm like he was a magician about to play a trick. The skeletal bear was curled by his feet. It would remain there when he went inside of the palace, awaiting his return like a faithful dog. The palace reminded him of 10 Gothic cathedrals connected to one another. Some were stacked on top of the other. Others were attached to the sides until it formed a jagged half-moon. It bristled with narrow, pointed towers, steep, arched doorways, and closely packed columns like soldiers on parade. There were statues in niches on every level. Some appeared to be angelic with delicate stone wings and beatific expressions. But there were also creatures from the Everdark in all their ferocious glory. If there was a Medusa-like vampire gift that would turn beings to stone, he would have suspected it had been used here. The statues were frighteningly lifelike.
Or just done by the hand of a master. We don't encourage our people to display their art openly. The ability of one with centuries to perfect their craft is too apparent.
He realized now that vampires were revealed to the world. That did not need to be a rule any longer. They could become the rock stars and actors so many of them wanted, because the need to hide from the sunlight wouldn't be an impediment any longer. He was sure there would be meta-movies, vampires playing vampires. There would be stories about Damon and the other immortals. The war was sure to be immortalized on the silver screen as well. He wondered if Balthazar would insist on playing himself. Caemorn shook himself. They needed to stop the humans from attacking them first before they took lead roles in action movies. Fictional action movies. He was supposed to be claiming the best rooms here before the other Callie vampires arrived. He was tempted to go in and simply ward the whole place. He could then let in only one Callie vampire at a time if they proved to be useful to Damon's empire and didn't offend him too much. But he found himself hesitating outside. He had told Balthazar that he was not afraid of any darkness in this place, that he needed to see it, know it, use it for his own, and he wasn't afraid. Not exactly, but there was a feeling. It was so amorphous that he couldn't even feel the edges of this emotion. He plucked at it, but it would not reveal itself to him. It was like a shadow that covered everything and yet was seemingly made of nothing. For a moment, he considered turning on his heel and simply heading to the Eiros Palace. Balthazar had promised him accommodations, excellent accommodations, so after a bit of ribbing, he was certain he would be welcome there.
Welcome there.
Balthazar would simply think Caemorn did not wish to stay at the creepy Callie Palace and instead wanted company. He imagined settling down there, hearing Balthazar and Christian look around the place, hearing the other Eiros vampires exclaim excitedly about their new home in the Everdark. There would be fires and wine and blood. He wouldn't have to speak if he did not wish to. Christian would insist he be a part of things even if he claimed to wish to be alone. And he would stay with them, amused despite himself by Balthazar's antics and the gentle ribbing between him and Arceus. Christian's parents would be floating about, looking at everything and speaking in low tones as scholars do. He might even allow Christian's father to speak with him, as he so clearly wished to do. So why, other than pride, did he not do just that? Turn around and go to where there was light and life. Balthazar would tease him, but it would not be the sharp, weaponized verbal sparring that would hurt. He rather felt Balthazar would be pleased to have him. Stay with the Eiros. Leave the Callie behind, be Christian's friend and Balthazar's friend, but he could not. He had things he had to do. He could not run away, even to a home that was actually a home to him. He stared at the Callie Palace. The whole palace would have appeared like a weapon. a bunch of swords tied together thrusting into the sky as if disemboweling an enemy. But then there were the stained-glass windows that made it seem more like an offering of beauty to the sky. Centered directly above that arching doorway were 3 huge, round stained-glass windows. The central window had a crowned skull with roses threaded through the empty eye sockets. The stained-glassed window to the left had a depiction of a human being going through all the stages of life, from birth to death and decay. The stained-glass window to the right showed a soul gem bursting with light, as if what it contained was precious, even though it was used as fuel. Camorn moved the soul gems in his hand, his fingers sliding over the smooth facets, inspecting the pointed cuts, exploring the edges. They were warm. He felt the lives inside of them. Life equaled power. But not in this case. He would need power from somewhere else to create the bodies that would house the harrows, and then to transfer them from cold stone to warm flesh. He had a feeling that he would find that power here. He hesitated at the base of a set of broad steps, each set at a gracious, easily climbable height that led to the palace's front doors. They were so precisely cut, with not a nick or scratch on them, that it was hard, on the one hand, to think they were anything other than brand new. Yet the feel of this place was ancient, not old, eternal, as if it had always stood and always would stand.
I've been here before,
he thought. Camorn blinked. He did not know where that unbidden thought had come from. It was, of course, wrong. He had never been here. He wasn't even born when Nightvarden was locked away. But as he studied the facade of the palace, he felt he knew it. And it was more than that. For example, he knew that there would be 9 columns on the 2nd story of the 3rd tower before he looked to confirm he was right. And he was correct. Camorn's frown deepened. Precognition was not a Callie gift. That was squarely in Seer's corner. But then again, this was the past he was seeing, not the present. It was a memory, not a premonition.
I could not have a memory of this place,
he repeated,
unless a spirit could be communicating to me.
But truly, only a speaker to the dead could fully communicate with spirits in any case. For the most part, when a Callie vampire took control of them, they became almost zombie-like. Their own selves were locked away, and if there was any special knowledge they had from being dead, that was locked away too. He and Christian really would have to perform some experiments on this. Camorn shook himself. By thinking of Christian again, he was avoiding the fact that he was experiencing déjà vu, an extreme form of it. It was almost sickeningly dizzying. He curled his fingers against his palms, digging his fingernails into his flesh to anchor himself.
Test. I must create a test to see if this is just déjà vu or if I really do know this place.
Camorn looked up at the doors. He pulled out his phone. It was useless, of course, for making calls or receiving texts or searching the internet.
We should really consider setting up a cell or satellite network here. I must discuss this with Damon, as not all of us can read minds.
But that, too, like his thoughts of Christian and the experiments they should run, were pushed to the side. The phone was fine to simply make brief notes. And so he typed.
There will be a rectangular atrium. The floor will be made of this perfect white stone. However, there will be the Callie symbol of the skull with the crown inlaid into the floor in black stone.
Now, with his belief written down, his mind could not pretend the moment he saw the floor that it matched a memory from the past. The skull would either be there or not. He would be right, or he would be wrong. He would have electronic proof that he knew what was on the floor before he saw it, or he would have proof that he was having a breakdown of some sort. He saved the note and walked up the steps. Before he had a chance to touch the doors, they opened, and silvery light spilled out all around him. Camorn blinked as his eyes adjusted. There was a rectangular foyer. There was the Callie-crowned skull in black in the center of the floor. Camorn stared at it without blinking for a long time. He checked the electronic note. It matched. His mind was not playing tricks, but that didn't mean he was right, that he had been there before.
The building is reminiscent of a cathedral,
Camorn told himself.
Therefore, it would be logical to expect a rectangular atrium. Further, this is the Kali Palace, and that the Kali symbol should be displayed prominently in such a space is not surprising. I should not take this as proof.
Buying quality audiobooks is expensive, and that's because they cost a lot to make when you use actual human actors with real talent. But members get everything in my audio archive without having to buy audiobooks separately. Right now, we have 3 audio stories being updated. In December, the full, uncensored audiobooks of Everdark will be completed, and members will get to listen to all 147 chapters, even if they just joined for a month. The Dragon's Reign audiobook is updated once a week and 15 chapters ahead of the public podcast. And the Night Prince audio chapters are only found in the membership content. So the only way to listen to me narrating the Night Prince out loud is to subscribe to wraithrain.com. All the audio chapters are the same files you get in an audiobook. No interruptions, info breaks, or commercials. You can listen to everything for $10 a month. If you catch one of the membership sales or sign up for longer than a month, it's even less. Links to the sign-up form is in the notes.
His gaze swept upwards to the light source. It was a crystal chandelier, except the crystals were soul gems and the light did not come from candles or bulbs, but from the illumination of souls alone. Caemon was struck by several things at that moment. To have such powerful souls used as mere illumination showed the power of the Kali vampires in the past. It seemed to suggest that filled soul gems were no more valuable than light bulbs or candles. That no Kali vampire had stolen from such a hoard meant that they were either terrified of Kali themselves or, again, that filled soul gems were so plentiful that no one would bother. He wasn't sure which he believed. And finally he realized this would have to be taken down. Balthazar, Christian, and Julian would be horrified by this display, and he cared about what they thought of Kali, of him. The soul gems were beautiful and horrifying. They were the basis of a Kali vampire's power, but had they spent the souls of people as cheaply as a light source? Bodies were one thing. They were made to die for most beings, but souls? Souls were supposed to be eternal. And they didn't know what happened when they spent all the energy within them, but they kept doing it anyway. He found himself walking. Like in a cathedral, there was a nave, a long central corridor of another rectangular room with a ceiling soaring 3 stories above his head. There were pews on either side of him, places where the Kali vampires would worship their immortal. He could almost hear their voices whisper in prayer. His steps faltered for a moment. The sounds of their voices, their murmurs, their worshipful tones rising and falling around him like waves. A susurrant sound that was calming and yet had the hair rising on the back of his neck at the same time. Out of the corner of his eye, he thought he saw the whisperers, but when he looked directly at them, there was no one there.
Ghosts. No, memories.
He wrenched his gaze away and started walking again. He hadn't realized that he had stopped. There was a beamer at the end of the nave a few steps up, and where an altar would be was a throne made of bones. Not just human bones. There were werewolf bones, hag bones, and who knew what else. Skulls of creatures with long snouts and razor-sharp teeth adorned the throne. But 2 human skulls took pride of place on the top of the throne. They looked more proto-human than truly human. Their eye sockets burned with the light of the huge, brilliant, and filled soul gems.
There's a secret passage underneath the throne,
his mind whispered.
Step forward and you will see. What will I see?
Caemon asked. His voice echoed through the sepulchral silence.
I was human before I was made a vampire,
Caemon said to the silence. His voice echoed back at him, repeating the word vampire endlessly.
I cannot know this place.
Caemon continued insistently, despite not having anyone argue with him.
Step forward. You will see.
Caemon shut his eyes. He had finally come to find peace in his existence. He had a student, Christian, a brilliant student. He might even have friends. The faces of Julian, followed by, of all people, Balthazar, flashed before his mind's eye. And finally, he realized he might even have a purpose. It was Damon's face that appeared then, a slight smile on his lips as he looked indulgently at Camorn, as if just waiting for him to do the right thing, as if Camorn would know what that was and be able to do it without any problem.
I don't want to lose what I have,
he whispered, without opening his eyes.
I do not wish to be insane. Step forward. Damn you!
Camorn snarled and opened his eyes. There was another stained-glass window behind the throne. There must have been a courtyard behind it, because the moonlight poured through the glass. The image was Damon, standing in the center of the windows, beneficent, benevolent, loving, with a skeleton kneeling before him. Death bowing before the vampire king.
There is nothing to fear. Damon is here.
Even though Damon was in his palace, not too far away, he was also here. In every stone, every ounce of wood, every piece of gilt. Camorn could smell him everywhere. Was this why Callie had never come back here? To a place filled with power because it was also filled with Damon. He drew in a deep scent of this place. Where Callie had found unease, he would find peace.
There is nothing to fear. The vampire king is here.
Camorn slowly stepped up one step, then the next, and finally he stepped in front of the throne. There was the softest grinding sound, and the throne rolled back to reveal a set of stairs. Soul gems illuminated the entire way down. Camorn tilted his head to the side.
I know this place, that is clear, but how?
And there were other questions to ask as well. Camorn didn't think that this secret passage could have been secret long if just anyone could trigger the throne to roll back and reveal the stairway.
So this is opening for me. Is someone here?
Camorn asked aloud. He slowly turned in a circle and allowed his vampiric senses to roll out around him. Dust, far less than there should be. Decaying corpses still here and fresh all these years. Old blood seeped into every stone. The soft creaks and groans of stone settling. Nothing to see, though, not even in the deepest shadows. There were too many filled soul gems to sense the presence of a ghost reaching towards him, but he didn't really think there was a spirit behind all of this in any case.
No one here but me.
He walked to the top of the secret stairwell and stared down at them. The stairwell curled into a spiral so it disappeared from sight down a graceful curve. The silvery light given off from the soul gems was unwavering. It appeared perfectly safe. Camorn licked his lips. Appeared was the operative word. But a Callie vampire would never use physical traps in any case. No, it would be something else entirely. So the stairs probably were physically safe. Camorn started down the stairs. He liked how firm and finely cut they were. He trailed a hand along the curving wall. The stone was silky under his fingertips, pleasant. He imagined, no, he remembered doing this before, feeling this before, trailing his fingers along the curve of this wall, and then there was a doorway at the bottom. The light would become blue instead of silvery light, as there were eternal flames that burned there on either side of... Camorn stopped as soon as he saw the blue light illuminating the doorway down below. He drew in a soft, steadying breath. The idea of madness did not make sense to him. If he was going mad, his thoughts would not be so ordered. He would not know things, objectively know things before he saw them himself. So it was only logical that he was not mad, but in fact was remembering this place.
I have been here before.
The concept of reincarnation had been floated before, though before the immortals like Balthazar and Fiona there had been no proof. Could it be possible that humans reincarnated? They thought that at the Well of All Souls the spirits had a choice to go on or to return, but no one really knew. But he must be proof of this unless...
Iros returned as Balthazar, Wyvern returned as Fiona, but Callie is still here, still in this world. So how could I be a reincarnation of them?
Camorn advanced down the stairs to the very bottom. It was a single rectangular room approximately 25 feet wide by 50 feet long. There were torches, burning with blue flames along the walls. The room looked like a crypt. There were skeletons in niches lining the walls, their arms crossed over their bony chests. There were 4 sarcophagi, equidistant from one another, filling the room, rather like what was beneath Ravenscroft Manor. They were smooth and white and pure. He imagined that statues of the inhabitants would be placed upon the top. But there were no bones inside. That's not what they were for. Not to bury the dead, but
to create life.
On the far wall, beneath one of the blue burning torches, was a message carved into the once pristine stone walls. It was carved in order to ensure that it lasted the ages, as paper would not. The language was not English. It was an ancient tongue, the tongue of the immortals. But Caemorn could read it.
Welcome home. I know it will be you, the true me, who will find this spot. The others would never come back here willingly, but you, I will. The moment I step through these doors will be the first modicum of peace I have felt in a very long time. And I should feel that, for it means I have returned and will repair my mistakes. But the prince will explain all to you about that. What I need you to know now is simply this. The promise you made to our king you can keep. Here, there is the stored energy enough to do it. I have prepared. You have prepared. You will be able to do what I cannot because you took the journey and came back. Again, welcome home. May we never be parted from it again.
The skull with the crown was the signature. Caemorn drew shaking fingers over the familiar symbol that now had such a different meaning for him.
I am an immortal reborn. I am Callie.
Join us next time for episode 135, Shadow and Light.
I am always writing between 2 and 4 stories according to a public calendar that I update every month. They all include gay romantic couples, and there's always a magical, paranormal, or futuristic setting. Unlike a book, which you can only just read and be satisfied or unsatisfied with, you get to tell me what you think at the end of every chapter. That's right, there's a comment section where members leave feedback, and sometimes things can happen, such as fan pairings becoming real pairings. To see what I'm writing this month, check out the calendar. It's always in the same place. I just overwrite it with the new schedule. Link to the calendar is in the notes.
Last on Everdark, Caemorn explores the surprisingly familiar Callie Palace. As he delves deeper into its mysteries, he discovers the biggest mystery is himself. Caemorn is Callie reborn. We now turn to Balthazar and Christian as they traverse Nightvallen. Episode 135, Shadow and Light. Balthazar and Christian walked arm in arm to the Eiros Palace. His master chatted gaily about everything they were seeing, admiring every single building and remarking how pleasant the weather was. Everything about Nightvallen was perfect and charming and exactly as Balthazar had thought it would be. And could Christian believe that this was going to be their home? Yes, he could believe it. Yes, it was deserved. It was clear that Balthazar was still amazed at what he perceived as his good luck rather than his good acts. Christian just held on to him a little tighter as he realized that. Balthazar kissed him, hardly stopping in his flow of compliments for the place. Christian loved to hear Balthazar just talk, without any sort of panic or displeasure. He truly was joyous, and a joyous Balthazar was a thing to see. Christian could feel Balthazar's rising excitement, though, as they neared their ultimate destination, the Eiros Palace. Would he recognize it? Would it feel like home? Or would he long for his beloved Ravenscroft Manor? Christian thought that he would love both, and he felt greedy that he would be the first person to see Balthazar's amazement. His parents had remained behind with Elgar. They were eager to see the Eiros Palace too, of course. His father was already starting to wander to get a closer look at that building, or another fountain, or was that a library over there? A courthouse? A temple? His mother had to keep a firm hold on his arm to keep him from disappearing into the maze of streets in Nightvallen. There was so much to see, so much to learn. Christian could well imagine what the Harrows, natural adventurers, must have thought. Even his mother, who liked nothing more than reading history and about exotic destinations, had started to lose track of herself as she gazed between slats of several shuttered windows, or ran a hand along a statue's smooth marble leg. The Eiros Palace would undoubtedly be more spectacular than these things they were seeing, and it would, of course, have more meaning. But both his parents understood that it was important for Balthazar and him to see the Eiros Palace alone first. Really, it was important for Balthazar to experience it first, while Christian was just along for the ride. But what a ride it was! I cannot wait to see the expressions on some people's faces when they look at Nightvallen, Balthazar enthused, with a little bit of childish glee in his voice. It makes the other Everdark cities look like pissant villages, and they thought they had the best. Bah!
You have a city of your own too, don't you?
Christian realized as they strolled past a long rectangular building with graceful lines and balconies with overflowing greenery. The sweet scent of night flowers perfumed the wind. Balthazar blinked. I suppose I do. I'll have to ask Damon about that. He shook himself. But I'll want to stay here most of the time, of course. This is where the action will be. Can you imagine the President of the United States staying in one of these homes? Members of the European Union will have a space too. Every single nation on Earth will want to be here and speak to Damon for just a moment.
And he'll be relying on you to sort the wheat from the chaff.
Christian smiled broadly. Yes, I'm going to be very busy. Balthazar's grin dried up for a moment. Damn, I am going to be very busy. Christian laughed, as Balthazar did like his indolent time. Don't say it. Don't you dare say that line, because it just tires me thinking about it. Balthazar dramatically threw back his head, but he was still smiling as he thought about the work ahead.
The fact that they sent military people after us in a violent action isn't a very good start, is it?
Christian mused, feeling grateful the attack had come at night instead of the day. But Balthazar just shrugged. I'd rather open hostilities than hidden ones. If Callie hadn't forced Damon's hand early, we could have planned for what the human responses would be. Attacks would have been at the top of my list. What humanity does not understand, it wants to control or destroy. Tonight's attack was a little of column A and column B mixed all together. As it is, we were lucky that there were no casualties on either side. Nothing like deaths to cause a breach. The cycle of revenge and all.
Yes, both sides would somehow have to feel that they had avenged those that had died.
Christian nodded slowly.
We could point to the fact that the humans attacked us first.
Ah, but Callie really struck first. Balthazar lifted a finger into the air. The humans just retaliated.
But they're not on our side,
Christian pointed out.
And Damon, with some small help from all of us, saved as many people as possible.
That's too much in the weeds right now. A vampire is a vampire is a vampire. That's all the humans can see, trust me. Tribalism is and will be strong, Balthazar told him. And if there is a way for each side to misunderstand each other, it will be found. It is good that Damon is not easily offended.
I wonder how long he'll let the conflicts go on, though.
Christian said. That is a question. His ideas of time are strange compared to ours, so we shall see.
What happens when we are exposed to sunlight?
Christian realized he didn't know. He hadn't asked. He just assumed they would burn up. Yes, it's what you think, Balthazar said sheepishly. In time, the burning becomes less severe, but any one of us in the sunlight for a long length of time. Ashes, ashes, we all fall down. Christian shivered.
Good to know.
Somebody will create some kind of sunlight weapons in the future to work against us, I would imagine. It's odd, really, that we can withstand certain UV lights. I'm not a scientist, but I would have thought they would have burned us too, but no, Balthazar remarked with another shrug. seemingly quite at peace with the idea that people would plot to burn them to their second deaths.
You know too much about people's true natures to expect anything less out of them.
Christian realized. Unfortunately, reading people's minds gives you an understanding of people that makes little surprising. Balthazar agreed with a faint nod of his head. We're going to see a lot of ugliness in the near future, Christian. I want you to be prepared for that. Christian considered this.
I suppose there will be. Religious people will have a hard time with this, though some of what we know does support certain religions, like reincarnation, the existence of a soul, the presence of another world after this one.
Yes, but as much as we will be able to confirm that is good, and here Balthazar made air quotes with his free hand, it will also confirm for some the bad.
Such as demons?
Absolutely. A firm nod.
The devil?
Yes, and Damon will be seen as him in many eyes. Balthazar again nodded. We'll be seen as tests from God. Will you take your pleasure here in this life or join the Almighty in the next? Are we lost souls? Are we fallen angels here to tempt people? Even the good things we confirm, that there's something more, may cause a spate of suicides. There will be those who simply realize that leaving this life isn't giving much up if they have an eternal one. Christian was repelled at the idea, but it had merit.
If they're in pain or given a bad start and can't get out, wouldn't suicide seem okay? Even a good thing?
Balthazar's forehead furrowed. I was born in a time when suicide was an ultimate sin. Even now, it churns my stomach, and I wouldn't want anyone to do that to themselves. But yes, I suppose it changes the calculus, doesn't it?
I really have to talk to Caemorn more about spirits and the other side.
Christian murmured as he bit his lower lip.
I hadn't really thought about how it's not just vampires existing that's going to change things. We have to be careful about what we reveal and when.
And you, speaker to the dead, will be very important in all of that, Balthazar said with a rather wry expression. You will have to be the go-between for the religious and the scientific and many in between. Christian blinked rapidly.
My skill set is ill-suited for this.
What? Balthazar gave him a small, confused smile.
Balthazar, whoever explains this to people has to be able to read them, have a good rapport with them. At the best of times, I want to crawl out of my skin when there are too many people I don't know in a room.
Christian struggled to explain.
I do not make people feel at ease.
He'd never had much trouble expressing himself with Balthazar, but the Eiros vampire was so non-judgmental, and likely since Balthazar could read people incredibly well. Not just their minds, but their body language, all of it. He'd always known just how far to push Christian, and when not to. There was always the gentle touch on his back when Christian started to get tense, or the warm embrace of his mind when Christian wanted to flee. Balthazar did things for him without seeming thought to make Christian be his best, at least in the realm of dealing with people. That is an interesting perception of yourself. One that is completely false, by the way, Balthazar told him. Oh, not about how you feel. What we feel is what we feel, and is legitimate. But you actually make people feel quite calm.
I can't believe that.
Christian shook his head.
Julian is always running interference for me. I accept that this is part of myself.
Julian is a more outgoing person, yes. He's a natural in front of the camera, Balthazar agreed. But you really experience everything that other people are feeling. It's because you feel it so deeply that it can become a burden to you at times. But you understand people and take on their emotions. That's how you're able to help Elgar. He is a basket case, and yet, with you, he is a kitten. Speaking of kittens, Mephi mewed piteously at being jostled. Balthazar gave the kitten a head kiss.
Elgar is so diffident.
Christian shook his head and couldn't help the smile that crept across his lips as he spoke of his elder blood brother.
He tries not to take up any space in a room. He fades to a shadow. Helping him is like helping myself a decade ago.
Exactly. You understand him and what he needs. Balthazar slapped his thigh. Another angry mew. Another head kiss. Christian began to wonder if Balthazar was being too loud to disturb the kitten on purpose, only to soothe the little black fur ball.
I would like a kiss too,
Christian said. A lifted eyebrow. and he got one on the mouth that was long and sweet.
Take that, Mephi.
You are not jealous of the kitten that you insisted I get, are you, Christian? There was a mischievous twinkle in Balthazar's eye.
That would be absurd and illogical,
Christian said quietly, even as he gave the kitten a narrow-eyed glance.
Just make sure he doesn't hog the bed tonight. His little feet dig into me and what?
He weighs like 2 pounds, if that, and he's able to push you around. Balthazar looked ready to burst out laughing.
Cats take up quite a bit more room than it would seem physically possible, but they do.
Christian told him, knowing it was nonsense and yet was true.
But enough about your shadow. Let's go back to humanity.
If we must. But Balthazar looked happy enough to discuss anything and everything.
It won't just be religious people, but scientists that will be affected,
Christian pointed out. Oh, yes. They are going to flip their lids at the possibilities of vampire blood aliens. After all, immortals really are aliens, aren't they? And so much more. The Everdark and the Gates will throw them for loops. Not that we'll let them look too closely at that, Balthazar said.
Moonfall is out of time. That will completely rock them,
Christian said. It rocks me, Balthazar confessed. At that moment they rounded a corner, and the Eiros Palace was before them. They both stopped dead in their tracks.
I've always wanted Wraith Rain to have something new every day. If you check out the calendar, something new is happening, and that includes manga pages. When there isn't an audio or written chapter, I post a manga page. The completed manga is also in its own gallery that you can see when you log in. Manga is not easy to sell. Most people in Western audiences don't buy it. But as membership content, I can justify making these beautiful visual stories in collaboration with my artists. Be sure to check out the very not safe for work werewolf story that manages to be cute and sexy at the same time thanks to artist T-Wolf. Even if you're not really a manga person, if you're a member, it's included, so why not check it out? I'll post a link to the sign-up form in the notes.
It was a crescent moon-shaped structure, with the palace curling around a spectacular half-enclosed courtyard. A central path led to a grand staircase that reached glass and silver doors, which were open as if waiting for them to walk inside. The palace was 5 stories tall, with each floor slightly reduced in scale from the one below it. There were French-style doors everywhere leading out to wide, beautiful terraces with places to sit or even lay down. Like with Ravenscroft Manor, there were flowers everywhere. Most of them appeared similar to roses, but the colours were deeper. They flooded planters and hung off the edges of the terraces. They fell in luxuriant waves across some of the doorways. The Eiros Palace seemed to be made of as much stone and glass as flowers. Dark purple and crimson blooms lined that central path to those front doors. Delicate lamps, which looked to be made out of spun glass, were hung on silver poles at even intervals, casting a clear light to illuminate their way to that entrance. Christian went near one to see if there was a bulb inside, but instead he saw something that flitted and glowed inside a crystal prison. No electricity here.
Do you see this? What do you suppose is inside? Something alive?
Christian asked as he turned towards Balthazar. Balthazar had stuffed his face into one of those rose-like flowers and was breathing in deeply. Mephi was practically yowling as he was going to lose his perch. His sharp kitten claws, however, were keeping him from tumbling onto the path. Christian bit his inner cheek as, for at least a moment, Mephi was ignored for a rose. Balthazar rose up, though, and easily adjusted the kitten. His eyelids were at half-mast. He looked almost dreamy, perhaps even drunk on the scent of these flowers. Considering the amount of them, Christian had thought that their scent would be overwhelming, but they merely released a slight sweetness into the air that was incredibly pleasant. I remember planting these, Balthazar drawled. I'd found them out in the Everdark on a rare little hillock, and I brought some back with me. They were so lovely. Their scent was so pleasing that I had to have them near me at all times.
I think you accomplished that.
Christian gestured to the palace.
Your home is essentially a planter.
Balthazar tipped his head back and laughed. Yes, I see what you mean. Seer did tell me I was taking it to an extreme, that I would have to manage my obsession.
They might need a little cutting back, but really they give some privacy. The Iros Palace looks to be mostly glass.
Christian remarked as he realized that there were floor-to-ceiling windows in almost every single outer room of the palace. Balthazar slung an arm around his shoulders. It was to represent how nothing is hidden from the Iros. I might have gone a little overboard there too, but there's plenty of curtains.
Well, Oh, Kamorn, what do you... Oh.
Christian stopped in mid-sentence. The Kali vampire skidded to a halt. He wasn't out of breath, but it was clear he had been running full speed to get to them. The lumbering skeleton bear was racing after Kamorn's lean form. Kamorn's silver eyes were wild. It took an effort for him to compose himself, and then he was all deadly serious. He strode up to Balthazar and extended his hands as if to be placed in handcuffs.
You must imprison me,
Kamorn said to Balthazar. What? We were just... What? Balthazar's eyebrows rose for a moment, but then he realized what the matter was, and looked sheepishly at Christian. He figured it out. That he's Kali.
Yes, I suppose that was to be expected. Going back to the Kali Palace and... Oh, you left yourself a note.
Christian read from Kamorn's mind.
The note didn't really explain things, but it did clue you in, and you don't remember much yet.
You're not surprised I'm Kali?
A frown and furrowed brow adorned Kamorn's face.
No, we met you in Moonfall. You explained a little of what was to come. Julian and I wanted to tell you right away, but so much was going on.
Christian said with a lame shrug.
Damon and Julian were going to talk to you about it tomorrow, but I guess you figured it out. Some of it, anyways.
The skeleton bear let out a mournful sound when Kamorn pushed its head away from his leg. It had been snuffling his pockets, as if looking for treats of some sort.
I do not understand. If you knew who I truly was, why did you send me on my way, free and clear? Why did Damon not imprison me himself like Artemis?
The frown on Kamorn's face had deepened.
You need to lock me up.
Why do we need to lock you up exactly? Your thoughts are not clear on this, and I'm not seeing any reason to, Balthazar said.
Kamorn, you're not like the other Kalis. I mean, they aren't like you.
Christian strove to explain.
You're the original, the main one, the core.
That is hardly comforting, Christian. I would expect the moment I recall who I am, I will become as mad as all the others. Perhaps more so.
Kamorn remarked, and his pale hands shook for a moment.
While I still have control of myself, you need to imprison me and...
You're not crazy,
Christian said.
All of this, everything that's happened, has been a plan between you, Seer, and Iros.
Kamorn was staring, unblinking at him, and his mind was completely unreadable in that moment. His silver eyes flickered to Iros.
Christian would not lie to me, but he might misunderstand. He would wish to think well of me. You, however, would not be so kind, Balthazar.
Kamorn stated.
What is the truth of it?
Balthazar plucked one of the loveliest purple flowers and came over to Kamorn. He put the flower in the top buttonhole of Kamorn's jacket. He tilted his head to the side, adjusted the flower, straightened Kamorn's jacket, and then stepped back. The truth of it is that you, Seer, and I put together an insane plan. But it seems to have worked to stop the other Kalis and bring Damon back. Balthazar told him, You aren't going to go crazy, because you weren't crazy when you had all your memories. You made a mistake. You needed help fixing it. And we're doing that.
But the others...
I would imagine that they are unstable because they are not wholly you, Balthazar said. I can feel an innate difference between you, say, and Artemis.
Artemis.
Kamorn hissed. His head had shot back towards one of the avenues they had come down. Artemis, chained and otherwise restrained, was between Elena, William, and Ridley. The pale, blonde vampire froze as he saw Kamorn. Kamorn, don't do anything rash, Balthazar counseled, as he too looked at Artemis. But Christian felt something deep and dark in Kamorn, the immortal in him, rise up like a phoenix, rage at being oppressed, rage at being at the whims of this creature that was but a shadow of him, rage at this monster for going against his king. Artemis, who had turned Caemorn and who had seemingly had no idea who Caemorn was, at least until now, actually cowered. He shifted in the chains that were around his wrists, ankles, and throat. He tried to stand up and appear unconcerned, but those silver eyes were filled with fear. Elena, Ridley, and William exchanged a look between them. Balthazar made a gesture for the three of them to move away from Artemis.
You.
Caemorn growled. Artemis tried to give a confident smile, but it withered on the vine. Me. I. Caemorn.
What's my name?
Caemorn asked. Caemorn seemed to grow in stature all of a sudden. He was tall, but he seemed bigger than before. His shadow stretched longer. His coat began to flutter around him in an unseen wind as he took one step towards Artemis. I am your master. Your name is whatever I give you. Artemis tried to sound commanding, but his voice was reedy and thin.
What is my name?
Caemorn repeated. He advanced another few steps. Now not only his shadow, but all shadows grew longer. The light retreated between him and Artemis to a thin line that illuminated a path between them. Christian thought he saw one of those silvery strings that connect souls. Christian reached for Balthazar's nearest hand and clutched it. Balthazar held his hand just as tightly. You are behaving foolishly, Caemorn. Artemis's voice was now shrill. I wouldn't come near me if I were you. Caemorn, of course, did not listen to a word Artemis said, but was now just 2 feet from the other Kali vampire. He loomed over Artemis, who was striving not to cower but failing miserably at it.
I'll tell you my name,
Caemorn stated in that cold, dreadful voice. His silver eyes glittered, and the silver cord between him and Artemis quivered. No, Artemis whispered and clutched the center of his chest where the cord was connected. No, you can't. You can't.
My name is Kali, and I rule you,
Caemorn proclaimed. He reached forward and touched Artemis's forehead. There was a wail that shook the ground. A shockwave exploded out from the slender childlike figure. There was a burst of silver light. Caemorn absorbed the light. Artemis still stood there for a moment, and then toppled over in a lifeless heap. The shadows returned to normal. Christian felt he could breathe again. He took a step towards Caemorn's back.
Caemorn?
Christian called. The Kali vampire's mind was curiously smooth and blank. It was a shield, Christian realized, that was keeping him out. He felt like making a mournful sound, like the bear made now as it once more nudged Caemorn's thigh.
Caemorn?
Christian called again. Balthazar tugged him back as he'd taken another step towards the still silent figure.
No, we can't let him feel alone now, Balthazar. He has to know that he's still our friend.
Christian cried. Instead of trying to break free of Balthazar's grip, he dragged the Eiros vampire towards Caemorn. Just as they were a few feet away, Caemorn swung around. His expression was mild but blank. He was hiding all of his feelings.
You said you didn't think I was crazy, Balthazar,
Caemorn said.
but you look a little concerned.
Well, I didn't expect you to suck the crazy in. Balthazar tilted his head towards the body. Are you all right? Caemorn lifted an eyebrow.
I'm quite fine.
Caemorn, don't!
Christian reached for him. Caemorn tried to withdraw, but Christian was too quick for him and caught his right forearm. There was a flash of warmth and warning from the Kali vampire.
Christian, I think...
Don't!
Christian said with a violent shake of his head.
Don't leave us like this. Don't retreat. Don't pretend you don't need us too.
You need me. I don't think...
We do. It was Balthazar who spoke. Caemorn, or do you want to be called Kali now? Caemorn swallowed, and for a moment his mask slipped.
You can call me whatever you like.
Christian, you told me that you didn't know how to reach people. But here's another of your lost lambs that needs you, Balthazar said with a small smile.
Lost lambs?
Caemorn's eyes flared a little.
Ignore him about that.
Christian searched Caemorn's face.
Open your mind.
Christian...
Open your mind. I want to show you something. I want to share something with you. I think I can do it.
Christian said. I'd do as he asks, came on. Balthazar chuckled. He'll never leave you alone until you do. Christian felt Camon's mind open just a little, ready to receive but not give information. Christian closed his eyes and shared the memory of meeting Camon in Moonfall. He shared the clear friendship between him, Julian, and Camon. He shared Camon's evident love and trust. He shared his power and the knowledge that Camon was Callie and was content. Christian gasped as he felt a wave of dizziness hit him as the memory ended and he disengaged from Camon's mind. Balthazar caught him and held him upright. He opened his eyes. Camon's expression was no longer blank. The cold, still expression was gone from his face. Confusion and longing were there.
Is that true? Yes, it is. But
Camon shook himself.
I have to be open to it.
That is the future,
Christian told him.
You're Callie and everything is fine. You're not a monster.
I wouldn't go that far, Christian.
Camon said with a faint yet sad smile.
But I use what I am to keep you and Julian safe.
The bear nudged Camon again, but this time he patted its head. He straightened and shook himself. He looked a bit lost. Come on, we need to check out the Iros Palace, Balthazar said to him. And I'm betting that you won't be satisfied with the rooms I pick. Camon glanced back at the body that had once housed a piece of him. Balthazar said to the other three, pick that up and, well, put it somewhere for now. We'll deal with it later.
I should go back to the Callie Palace,
Camon said, but he didn't sound like his heart was in it.
I
need to be among friends, Balthazar said and clapped his shoulder. That can wait. Camon lifted an eyebrow, but then his gaze went to the Iros Palace. He looked at it critically.
You're right. I need to pick my room. You'd pick something too exposed.
What's hidden from an Iros? Nothing. With one glance back at Artemis, Balthazar added, Remind me not to make you angry, Camon. Camon smiled at him.
You do all the time, Balthazar.
Well, not that angry then. Balthazar huffed. That smile grew.
Never, my friend. Never.
Join us next time for episode 136, In Time.
If you're in the mood to listen to something really different, I recorded a 3-part short story in 2020 for Halloween. It's called Hero, and it's a gay vampire horror story. Definitely not romance. You can hear my first attempt at a dramatic narration. It's completely open to listen to on YouTube, and I'll post the link in the notes.
Last on Everdark, Christian and Balthazar were strolling towards the Iros Palace when an alarmed Camon finds them. He has discovered that he is Callie reborn and is convinced he will go mad. He asks to be chained up, but they will not oblige. Even after he absorbs Artemis, Callie's soul, Christian and Balthazar won't let him retreat. Instead, they insist he accompany them to the Iros Palace and be with his friends. We now return to Julian and Damon. Episode 136, In Time.
Should we try them out?
Julian's eyes sparkled up at him.
The thrones, I mean.
We should, Damon agreed, grinning back at his fledgling. He was glad that Julian wanted to take his princely seat. He knew that being in such a position, not a position of leadership, as Julian excelled there, but being royal and all the attendant duties that came with that, unnerved his fledgling. Julian was not comfortable with being set above others. His approachability would be a good thing, but he had to understand that he was someone greater. Julian looped his left arm through Damon's right one, and they advanced down the length of the throne room. Their footsteps clicked as they walked over the marble floor. Julian's eyes scanned the room, his arm tightening on Damon's the nearer they got to the dais.
There's no dust. The floor is shiny,
Julian remarked as they reached the steps up to the thrones. Oh, yes, of course, Damon remarked a little distractedly. He wanted to see how it would feel to have Julian sit beside him. He had been dreaming about it for so long. How many times had he sat on his throne imagining having his own fledgling, one he could teach and spoil and treasure, a fledgling that would do great things and make mistakes too, a fledgling that would cling to him but also do things on their own, a fledgling that would challenge him as much as learn from him. Julian was all of these things and more. Julian let out a laugh.
Of course. Let me guess, it's all part of the Everdark welcoming us. Does it clean itself? Make sure there aren't any dust bunnies under the beds or spider webs in the corners?
Damon lifted a shoulder. He urged Julian up the stairs.
Wait, if the Everdark isn't physically vacuuming itself, why does everything look pristine?
Julian's eyebrows rose, then drew together.
In Moonfall, time was flowing really fast. You could feel it, see it, of course, too. Here, I've no sense of time at all.
In a way, time does not exist here, Damon explained, knowing this would cause Julian to wonder greatly. Julian blinked rapidly.
Is that why it's always night, but there are still trees? I assume the trees here need daylight to grow. But if time stopped...
Time exists, but is not the same here as you know it on Earth. For things to be as they are here, things must be as they are in Moonfall, Damon slowly stated. Julian chewed on his inner cheek, clearly considering what he was saying before blasting off a million questions. And Damon was certain he had 1,000,000 or more. He liked that Julian, though, tried to understand what he was saying before he asked for more explanation. His fledgling knew that some answers Damon could not give even to him. But Julian would understand much of it on his own, in time. Sit. Damon gestured towards the slightly smaller throne that was placed beside his. Julian stared at the two thrones as if he was afraid they would bite him, or more like, he thought they would transform him the moment he sat down upon one. And in a way, Julian was right. The thrones were made of stone. The infinity symbol was carved into the curving tops of both. There were purple pillows on the scooped stone seats with silver tassels. The stone was smooth on both thrones as if they had been sat in for decades, centuries, millennia. In his case, that was the truth. But in the matter of Julian's throne, it just showed that his child should have always been by his side. Julian drew in a deep breath, rocked back and forth on his feet as if preparing for some particularly taxing physical feat, before he turned his back on the throne and slowly lowered himself into it. Julian's hands were like restless birds as they rose and fell from the arms of the throne. Finally, they settled down, and his fingers lightly curved over the ornate end pieces. Julian then slowly leaned back, instead of simply perching on the throne's edge, as if he intended to leap up at any moment. The seat perfectly fit him. Julian shifted a moment, and then made a slight nod as if confirming for himself that this was his spot. Damon tilted his head to the side as he observed his fledgling seated upon the throne. He could not hide his smile as he gazed upon Julian. Even in his child's modern, casual clothes, he had a royal air, a young vampire princeling surveying his domain with a cool yet incisive gaze. Julian didn't say anything at first. He simply stared down the rectangular throne room as if he saw their subjects approaching. There would be so very many, especially in the early days of their reign, who would come here. They would arrive with the belief that they would not bow, that they would get their way, but in reality, it would be his way. You look like you belong there. How does it feel? Damon asked, eager to hear something from Julian. Damon could have looked into Julian's mind, but Julian was figuring out his own emotions, and he needed to articulate them to truly know them. Julian drew in another steadying breath before he looked up at Damon.
There's a weight to sitting here. It feels sacred, momentous, not just sitting in an ornate chair.
Julian gave him an uncertain smile at that. Damon nodded. You are not wrong, but you've always taken responsibility in your life for yourself and others. Damon reminded him gently. He wanted Julian to see that this role as prince wasn't all that different from what he had already been doing for those who followed him in life and online. Julian was, as he had realized from the first, a natural-born leader. People followed him because he exuded a kind of paladin-like quality. His parents' deaths hadn't really tarnished that need to do what was right. Julian had even put away his revenge as he saw all sides of what had happened to cause his parents' deaths in the first place.
But it's more than that.
Julian's fingers curled tighter over the arms of the throne. He grimaced, the words not cooperating with him. Yes, Damon agreed without elaborating. Some things were beyond words, like the Everdark itself. Some things had to be discovered over time. Julian would learn exactly what the throne meant as he ruled vampires and humans.
I'm afraid of this responsibility,
Julian admitted with a rueful smile.
It's so much easier to have a goal that's simple, reveal vampires exist, than to have something like support vampires and keep humans safe because they're our food source and we need them to secure our future.
Damon laughed. That it is.
We're going to make mistakes, aren't we? Even with Seer's ability?
Julian asked.
And Iroh's too, and all the rest? No matter what we see, it won't be enough.
Damon could not deny that mistakes would be made. He had made his own, but without making them, he would not be here with Julian. He said as much. There is never a time when everything goes right for everyone, Damon told him carefully. There will never be perfect balance. Things will sway one way, then the other. They are not mistakes, per se. It is how life is. Damon turned and gracefully swept down onto his own throne. The two of them faced the empty throne room together, except for a moment it was not empty. He heard Julian draw in a sharp breath as they both glimpsed the future here. Ghostly figures filled the room. The murmur of many voices crashed over them both. The throne room was not dark either, but well lit and glorious.
Is this...
Julian stopped. The future? Yes. Let us see what the Everdark wishes to show us, Damon suggested.
But I thought you couldn't see your own future.
Julian cried. In a way, everything is our future. I cannot see the moments that are critical to my own existence, but we can see this, Damon explained. Directly before them was a black woman in a well-tailored suit, who was flanked by an Asian man who blinked rapidly to her right, and a military officer, who should have been pulled over by the amount of medals on his chest, to her left. The figures were fully fleshed out, but still ghostly. Damon could see the floor and back walls through their forms.
That's Jamila Arnold. She's running for president of the United States right now,
Julian whispered, as if these figures who were not there, not yet, could hear him.
The guy to her right is her running mate, James Ito. I don't know who the military guy is.
It appears they win, Damon remarked.
I'm planning on voting for them. She's amazing. So is he,
Julian murmured. President Arnold spoke in a precise, authoritative voice.
King Damon, I will not allow my people to become slaves.
Her voice deepened as she added,
I will not allow that to be done to anyone, whether they are under my direct protection or not. So if that is your plan, know that you have an enemy in me.
I've been writing gay romantic web serials since 2010. If you're just discovering me through the Everdark series or Dragon's Reign, the written version of those stories came out in 2017 and 2018, respectively. That means I've written many more MM stories before I invented these worlds of vampires, dragons, and true love. Where are these stories? They most likely won't be turned into ebooks like Everdark and Dragon's Reign, but they aren't lost forever. These older serials from a different dragon world to an interconnected story universe of elves, vampires, and magic users are all available for members to read and enjoy in the members-only content library on my serial site, wraithrain.com. I'll post a link to sign up in the notes.
She glared at them. Damon had no doubt she meant what she said. He was quite certain that she would defend her people, all people, with words and weapons. Anything under her control or within her reach to keep humanity safe from vampires. He couldn't help but admire her.
She doesn't appear to be very impressed by us,
Julian said with a huff of laughter. She recognizes the threat we pose. Not just to the people she was elected by, but to the world. Damon answered evenly, not surprised by this. Anyone sensible would realize that predatory creatures who saw humanity as a food source could not be trusted. Add in their abilities to control minds, raise the dead, and more, and trust seemed more like insanity.
But we're gonna convince her that we're not a threat, though, right?
Julian asked. His voice was hopeful as his eyes shone with the same admiration for President Arnold that Damon had. Damon stared into the woman's intelligent face. No.
Wait, no?
Julian shifted forward in his seat to look at him. She knows we will always and forever be a threat, Damon told him.
What? But no, that's not...
We are, Julian. Damon reached over and covered Julian's nearest hand with one of his. Without the need to hide, vampires could very well overreach. It will be our duty to make sure that doesn't happen. But humanity must help us. We cannot be everywhere at once. Julian's shoulders slumped.
I see. So she won't view us as allies, but as enemies?
Not enemies. And we will not view her that way, but uneasy allies. In time, she may come to respect us for reasons not associated with wariness, Damon explained carefully. But her role, and ours, means that she must not be our unconditionally loyal friend. She rightly intends to do all she can to keep us in line and make it so that those that come after her have as good a hand as possible. I have no doubt she will like you, Julian, but she can't trust you. Julian nodded.
I'm not human anymore.
No.
I'm not on her side.
No.
I have to protect vampires first, and then humans second?
Julian asked this as a question. In a way, protecting humanity is protecting vampires. We need them to survive. They will want what we have, but they do not need us, Damon clarified. Julian looked out at the ghost figure of President Jamila Arnold. He let out a huff of breath and smiled.
So she really is the right person for the right time.
Julian said as he nodded. Indeed. I would like to offer her to join the vampire ranks, but I think she would refuse. Though we shall see, Damon said. The ghosts of the future changed. Other world leaders appeared before them in all of their resplendent garb, elected or royal, democratic or autocratic. All of them came. Julian recognized some of them. He gave Damon a brief overview of all he knew, but admitted he didn't know enough. The Iros gift will take us far, but we will need to know far more than what one individual understands. Damon agreed. Then it came back to President Arnold again. While they were seeing her here in the throne room, it was clear to him that they were in another room where they were all seated, on the same level. There were computers and tablets in front of the humans. Reams of paper were sorted and put in folders. President Arnold leaned forward.
This school, this academy. There will have to be humans there monitoring the students to make sure that no one is being coerced.
She paused, clearly him answering her before she continued.
I know that you believe that humans will practically be breaking down the academy's doors.
She ran a weary hand over her head, but her gaze sharpened again.
And you may be right, but people often desire what isn't good for them. I intend to have vampires regulated.
Julian laughed and shook his head in admiration.
She's so tough. I can't wait to meet her.
Damon nodded. President Arnold disappeared, and there were others that took her place. One of them shocked Julian, though he admitted it should not.
That's the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church. And look, I don't know who the others are, but clearly heads of other religions.
Julian gestured to those seated around a man dressed in white.
Oh boy, how is this gonna go?
The Kali vampires claim to see a door to the afterlife? The Pope asked. His nut-brown face and deep brown eyes were warm, but wary. Arceus was there. He was wearing his full confessor's robes. No, not confessor's, preceptor's robes. Arceus covered his hands with the sleeves of his black vestment as he placed them on the table between them. He licked his lips, clearly listening carefully to the religious people's minds. What he said, as much as how he said it, would make this go easier or harder in the long run.
I would defer to Kamon and Christian about exactly what they see and know.
Arceus explained.
But you are the leader of the Order.
A man with a thick white beard and dark eyes remarked.
The Order does not concern itself with what is beyond this life, because for vampires, this life is their afterlife.
Arceus stated.
We focus on the immortals, like Eiros and Wyvern and, of course, King Daemon.
So they are gods in your eyes?
A woman with silver hair lifted up her eyebrows at this.
They are the ones that brought us eternal life.
Arceus said simply. But they are people, the Pope stated with a frown.
They are not like us. They were never human. They are quite beyond even vampires.
Arceus explained and cleared his throat.
What they are, where they came from, what their purpose is, if there is a greater one than creating families, is not altogether known to us. But they are sacred to us, no matter what the answers to those questions are.
Some of our religions state that only through God can one have eternal life.
A woman in a nun's habit said. She was very elderly with parchment-thin skin and rheumy blue eyes. Arceus cleared his throat.
Yes, I am aware of that.
Your very existence places that in doubt. And if one of the pillars of our faith is disturbed...
The nun left this hanging, but Daemon was certain everyone in that group knew where that would lead.
I am not here to tell you if your religions are right or wrong.
Arceus again spoke carefully.
Religions are a matter of faith. Vampires and immortals and all of their gifts are factual. How you address, what lens you address that through is up to you. The Order does not proselytize.
An Asian man dressed in orange and red robes with a bald head spoke.
If we do not address your existence, the people will do it for us. Why go through all the hardships of reincarnation if one can only live one life? Why seek immortality in an afterworld when you can have it here?
There was another brief cough from Arceus.
We do know that, at least for immortals, reincarnation exists.
The Asian man merely inclined his head.
Some might think that you are lost in this world, unable to reach full enlightenment. Others will see you as supernatural beings to be aspired to. Your existence deepens the mystery of existence.
How do we know you are not demons?
A very erect man in saffron-colored robes asked.
You sustain yourselves on our blood. Humanity is your prey. You flee the sun. You can lure us to do terrible things. Why should we not denounce you?
Julian was stiff beside Daemon. He'd been watching the whole debate, hardly blinking.
In the future, we really need to have more than just Arceus in there.
Julian cried. He is the preceptor. He is the right person to discuss all of this with them. Daemon contradicted.
But...
Would you have them speak to Caemorn? Daemon asked him dryly. Despite what Arceus had said about deferring to Caemorn and Christian about what they saw, neither of those two had any real patience for faith. Julian's mouth opened and shut rather comically.
Maybe not Caemorn. He would probably raise the dead in front of him and do other things that would offend and frighten everyone.
Julian admitted. Daemon nodded. They know we are a threat of another kind to them.
People's faith is going to be completely shaken.
Julian admitted. And unless they can adapt, their flocks will shrink. But then again, people cling to ideas long after there are facts to show that these ideas are not true, Daemon said. Sometimes the more facts you give them, the tighter they hold to the lies that sustain them.
But that's crazy.
Julian frowned deeply. Yes, but true. The scene in front of them changed. Huge male vampires who wore fur and had long hair and beards, who really reminded Julian of werewolves, strode down the throne room's aisle. In one hand they held stakes, made of wood, ropes of garlic, large Christian crosses, vials of water, and in the other hand they had canvas bags that dripped a trail of blood behind them.
We hunted these down,
the hulking, handsome vampire in the front said as he upended his bag, and 6 heads plopped wetly onto the pristine floor.
You need to have your Eiros vampires go out and identify these fools before they get so far with their plans.
He tossed his other hand's contents down beside the head. Julian leaned forward.
Crosses, holy water stakes, vampire hunters.
Respectfully,
the big vampire said.
The Weren are here to serve, but we cannot be the only ones who act. We need our alpha, you, to do something about these unruly humans. King Damon, will you?
Julian let out a hiss and charged the vision of the Werin vampire. His hand sliced the air where the hulking man would be at some point. Damon smiled. The vampire prince whirled around, purple eyes glowing red, chest heaving.
He has, no right to speak to you like that.
Julian snarled.
Will be, practically challenging you.
Damon lightly got down from the throne and put his arms around Julian. There will be many challenges ahead, my child, but with you by my side, I know that we will face them, and we will win. The ghostly visages of the future were gone. The throne room was empty, but for the two of them once more. Damon lifted his head. He could hear the pool on the balcony of the second floor filling. He smiled. The future would come soon enough, but the present was filled with pleasures he did not want to miss. Come, Julian, Damon said. Let me show you the rest of your home. Join us next time for episode 137, Trust.
When you buy a book or join my membership, it's not only a way to keep the lights on and pay my staff. Your money is proof that what I do is truly valuable to you, and I've never lost sight of that. I'm always honored that you choose to spend your time, attention, and money with Wraith Rain instead of the thousands of other choices you have, including just doing nothing. There are authors who are killing it on Amazon, but that's not, for me. I prefer to be able to see your name when you subscribe or make a purchase, and I love to see your comments both on YouTube and at the end of chapters. We have a real community, and that's what I've always wanted. My small team and I will continue to do the best we can to entertain you with tales of heroism, romance, justice, and adventure. Thank you so much for your support.
Last on Everdark, Julian and Damon take their places on their thrones and review the future, from meeting with heads of state to seeing Arceus dealing with religious leaders to vampire hunters. Now we return to Balthazar, Christian, and Camorn as they investigate the Eiros Palace. Episode 137, Trust. Are you being fussy, Camorn? Balthazar asked as the Callie vampire poked into yet another bedroom, this one on the second floor of the Eiros Palace. Mephi let out a squeak and curled himself under Balthazar's chin and fell asleep, even with his brusque words towards the Callie vampire. You found every single room wanting. Camorn shot him a narrow-eyed look.
I thought you wished me to be comfortable.
Balthazar blinked. I do.
And I thought that you wished me to feel at home.
Camorn added. Balthazar grimaced as he conceded again. I do.
And I thought you wished me to—
The best place for you is the suite of rooms beside mine and Christian's. Balthazar flapped his arms. It's private. There's a staircase that leads directly outside so you can whisk home or away without anyone knowing. There's room for your bony friends. The skeleton bear had just made a hoarse snuffling sound and pawed at Camorn's leg. It's opulent, yet subdued. I admit it doesn't have the Gothic cathedral look as your own palace, but it's in your style. It could have been made for you. Balthazar frowned. Had it been made for Callie? No, he didn't think so. While he didn't think Callie and he had been complete enemies in the past, not like with Callie's current other selves, they weren't as close as they were now, as he wished them to be.
I agree that those quarters are at the top of my list.
Camorn replied as he brushed off the bit of earth from the skeleton bear's claw on his pants. Balthazar couldn't quite figure out how Camorn managed to look spotless despite the fact he dealt with dead things all the time. So why do you have to check out every other set of rooms? Why don't you trust me and accept the ones I brought to you initially? Balthazar quickly dropped his hands down from a pleading position. He didn't have memories of the palace exactly, but his feet had seemingly known where to take them, which had been to the topmost floor. The main part of this topmost floor was his and Christian's rooms. They hadn't gone in yet, though he had caught a glimpse of a sweeping vista of glass-enclosed rooms, where there were loads of sparkling things. Oh, he loved sparkles. No, he'd resisted the urge to go there, but instead had allowed his feet to lead him to another set of rooms that was down half a flight of stairs from his own. This suite of rooms jutted off from the side of the palace, hanging suspended with no rooms below it, above it, or on either side of it. He'd known that this would be perfect for Caemorn even before they'd even looked inside. He had held his breath as he had gestured for Caemorn to precede him and Christian into the space, as if showing off a jewel to a connoisseur. There had been an almost breathless silence from him and Christian as Caemorn had surveyed them. The suite had 2 floors, which were connected by a central spiral staircase that looked to be practically floating in place. The steps were held in place by thin metal lines that were almost invisible. There were no walls except for the outer ones. There was a large bed with no head or footboard. It was larger than a Californian king. The sheets were a crisp, icy white, but the duvet was a soft, worn purple. There were loads of plump pillows and a grey and white fur throw over one of the edges. The 2 nightstands held sconces with glowing silvery crystals that provided light. Balthazar had requested more light, and the crystals grew brighter. This amused him intensely.
Better than the clapper,
Christian murmured. I bet there are loads of neat things like this. I mean, this isn't human technology, Balthazar said.
It's different from the spire here,
Christian said. Yes, every city in the Everdark has different features. Nightvallen is best of all, I'm guessing, Balthazar said. Caemorn drifted from the bed and night tables over to a raised section of the room where there was a sumptuous tub made of black stone. Caemorn touched a softly glowing tile, and water started to pour from a waterfall-like spout set in the tub's side. He quickly touched the tile again, and it stopped. The water drained. There was also an unenclosed shower.
This must be where you can store clothes,
Christian called as he pressed a section of one of the walls that was not glass, and out popped a very long rack.
Doesn't look like the person who was here last left anything.
It was for special guests. No one lived here, Balthazar said and blinked. I'm not sure how I know that.
Any clothes and bedding should have long rotted away.
Caemorn murmured as he ran his hands over the luxury bedding.
But it is as if brand new.
That's true, but things last a long time in the Everdark, Balthazar answered.
Yes, but there's no dust either. No cobwebs, and this bedding.
Caemorn actually sat down on the bed and bounced a bit. You're caressing those pillows like you want us to leave you alone with them, Balthazar deadpanned. Or, I should say, you, the pillow, and the bear. Caemorn was squishing one of the pillows in his lap. The bear had hefted itself on the bed and looked ready for hibernation. Caemorn looked up at Balthazar.
Don't you feel it?
Feel what?
These things feel new and particular,
Caemorn stated. Balthazar thought of this. Everything was very neat, clean, tidy, and more to a modern and potentially human aesthetic. The way he would want things now. Not how he would have wanted things even 200 years ago, let alone the millennia he'd been away from here. Balthazar was frowning as much as Caemorn.
Yet more evidence that Damon and the Everdark are one somehow?
Christian suggested. Both immortals looked up at him. Christian actually colored a little under their intense gazes.
This place is modern. I mean, it's very you, Balthazar, but you as you are now.
Christian explained.
Exactly.
Caemorn nodded. I hope that there are old things that might trigger me in a good way, Balthazar stated as he rubbed his chin. The other half of this floor had sleek, yet still comfortable sofas and chairs, all done in subdued colors. There was a fire pit that was filled with wood, ready to be burned. Balthazar turned as he heard Caemorn's footsteps on the stairs. He and Christian followed the Kali vampire downstairs. The bear moaned, but lifted itself from the comfy bed and followed. Caemorn had stopped at the bottom step and was staring. Christian and Balthazar practically walked into him. The bear did hit Balthazar's butt. Watch it, bear. Balthazar wagged his finger, which just had the bear nudging him some more.
What's wrong, Caemorn?
Christian asked.
Nothing. Nothing at all. It's quite perfect.
Caemorn answered. Balthazar looked over Caemorn's shoulder at the space. It looks like a lab. An alchemy lab or something. There were broad slate tables and free-hanging shelves. Balthazar blinked when Caemorn picked up a soul gem. What would a soul gem be doing here? Balthazar asked.
Precisely,
Caemorn murmured. But despite all of this being perfect for Camorn, and Balthazar could have sworn that Camorn liked them, perhaps more than liked them. The Cali vampire had turned on his heel and asked to look at every other single room in the palace. "This suite is clearly tailor-made for you. I don't understand why you're looking for something better," Balthazar cried. He felt insulted that Camorn would turn away from those rooms. Camorn crossed his arms at the wrists behind his back and said coolly,
If you wish me to take those rooms rather than choosing my own, you just had to say that—
No, do not twist my words, Balthazar interrupted. It's just, they're perfect.
Yes.
So why aren't you choosing them?
I will not have my future planned out.
Camorn answered.
I will choose.
You are choosing. You're choosing those rooms or whatever rooms. Balthazar resisted the urge to tear out his hair. Christian taking one hand in his helped that. Uneven hair-pulling was just not satisfying.
Balthazar and I would definitely like it if you chose rooms close to ours. Those rooms are closest,
Christian said succinctly, boiling down all he'd felt into one simple sentence. Then Christian added with equal grace,
but we want you to choose those you like the best.
Camorn regarded Christian unblinkingly, then turned his eyes to Balthazar. His mind was curiously blank, or more likely, he had up one of his many mental defenses. Since he had accepted himself as Cali, he'd gotten much, much better at keeping Balthazar out, and that bothered him. Not because he was worried Camorn was scheming. Actually, Balthazar was sure he was scheming, just not against them, but because he was protecting himself, as if he expected Balthazar to be the one to betray him.
You would have looked in all the rooms yourself, wouldn't you?
Camorn finally asked him. Yes, of course. I'm going to know every nook and cranny of this place, Balthazar answered with enthusiasm. He had determined he was going to sit in every chair and sofa, lay down in every bed, read every book, look out every window, and smell every flower. He even intended on running naked through the main water features, no matter if that was thought childish. He wanted to feel like this place was truly his. Right now, it still felt as if it were a hotel, a glamorous, exquisite, perfect hotel, but not home. Not yet.
So Christian is right. Your annoyance is not about me looking everywhere. You're worrying I won't wish to be near you,
Camorn remarked. In rooms that are perfect for you. Balthazar had to get in. It's like the only thing you object to is that you're near me. The Cali vampire's expression seemed to soften, though Balthazar would not have thought it hard before, and even now most people would see it as calm and unexpressive. Camorn's emotions were shown in the briefest, tiniest micro-expressions, but he could tell the difference, even as he forced himself not to try and find a crack in Camorn's mental defenses to check he was right.
We are doing more mini podcasts that are not directly about my stories, but more about MM and gay romance and other media, recommendations for what to read, watch, or play from the community, trends, silly facts about our community, and other things like that. If you have any ideas for topics or questions you want to ask the Wraith Rain community, post them in the comments here.
Privacy, remember?
Christian reminded him. We are Iros vampires. Reading minds is like breathing for us, Balthazar said.
Yes, true, but Camorn is intensely private. He wouldn't like it if you rifled through his mind.
Christian simply stated.
And the whole goal here is for him to be happy.
That's not the whole goal.
You want me near you?
Camorn asked. Well, yes and no. Whatever. Balthazar couldn't seem to control anything coming out of his mouth at that moment. I mean, if you want to be elsewhere, it's not like you'll hurt my feelings.
Hurt your feelings?
Camorn's voice was soft. No! I mean, that's ridiculous. It's a room. Who cares if you want to be as far away from me as possible? I won't take that badly. He crossed his arms protectively over his chest. Maybe Camorn didn't want his friendship. Balthazar wouldn't care. Absolutely not. Balthazar felt Christian wincing with every word out of his mouth. It was as if his mouth was intent on revealing everything his brain was trying to deny.
I see.
Camorn stared at him for another silent moment, and then as if coming to a decision said,
I choose the rooms nearest to you. The perfect ones.
Again, Balthazar did his best impression of a goldfish. Good.
You are not hurt now?
Camorn checked. I am not. Are you happy? Balthazar challenged.
I was always happy.
Camorn answered. Really?
Really.
Balthazar still wasn't sure, but he said, Now that this is settled, we should
Continue poking around into every nook and cranny?
Camorn lifted his left eyebrow, and there was a faint smile on his lips as he asked this. Now it was Balthazar's turn to give a narrow-eyed look. Yes, I suppose.
That is what you wish to do, yes?
Camorn asked. If you do.
I wish to see my new home. I do like to see everything.
Camorn answered.
There is something very strange going on here.
What do you mean?
Christian asked. Camorn continued to walk down the corridor as he answered.
The reason I did not immediately take those rooms had nothing to do with the nearest or farthest from the two of you. I intended to do that if the space was acceptable. It's because they're perfect, you see.
Christian slowly nodded.
I think I know what you mean. You're afraid it's fate?
Balthazar was going to blurt out he had no idea what they were talking about. But then he did. You're still afraid that you're going to go crazy and evil, aren't you?
I have no problem with being thought evil. That term is morally loaded and it is completely subjective.
Camorn murmured as he poked his head into one room and then the next. Yes, I understand your meaning there, but Camorn, don't you see that if those rooms are fate, then it's a good fate, Balthazar argued. Camorn paused in his poking.
Because it means we're friends.
Balthazar nodded. But more than that, you're friends with the one person who can read your mind. Camorn turned to stare at him as if daring Balthazar to do just that. Reminding himself of Christian's caution, he resisted the urge.
So if I get up to no good...
I'll know, Balthazar said. Camorn stared again, said nothing, and proceeded down the hallway. Balthazar and Christian shared a look.
He's here. That's a start, Balthazar,
Christian said. So you've noticed he's shut his mind so tight that not a crack of light can get out? Balthazar asked.
He's dealing with things,
Christian said with a shrug.
Give it time.
They continued their mostly silent inspection. They were all lovely bedrooms or sitting rooms. Balthazar was already picturing his people within them. He couldn't wait until the palace was bustling with vampires. He frowned, as for a moment he thought he remembered how it had been. Laughing and talking, all ghostly, filled the air, and then was gone. You don't remember things, do you, Camorn? Balthazar asked. Camorn turned and lifted an eyebrow.
About what?
Being Calais. Before, Balthazar asked.
Do you?
Camorn asked. No, not really.
Nor do I.
Camorn stated.
But you did take us immediately to the rooms you had in mind for me. Yet you say you don't remember.
It feels more like being on an automatic pilot. Not conscious determination at all, Balthazar admitted with a shrug. I've had a few memories. Most of them are rather terrible, to be honest.
Maybe that is why neither of us is recalling our past,
Camorn remarked, and then as if to end the conversation turned away from them.
We don't want to.
Camorn led them into a hallway that ran along the outside of the palace. There were glass doors to their left. Some of them were cracked open, others were shut. There was a terrace beyond with low, grey wicker furniture, plump, oatmeal-coloured cushions, and sleek black stone tables. Narrow fireplaces, filled with glass stones, and apparently gas jets let out a stream of purple-yellow flames. The urge to drift outside and simply sit and look up at the beauty of Night-Valen spread out before them was almost irresistible. He imagined sitting down on one of the sofas with Christian tucked beside him and just resting. Camorn, though, was like a mother goose, keeping her charges in line. Balthazar was surprised at how endearing, rather than aggravating, he found it when Camorn would look pointedly over his shoulder at them when they began to stray off his chosen path. They would evidently be methodical in how they explore the palace. Balthazar didn't really mind, as he would have plenty of time to bob about.
You're being very good,
Christian complimented him. I'm always good. Of course, he sent that with a mischievous smile. Christian shook his head, but good-naturedly.
You're putting Caemorn first when you have every right to do what you want right now.
Balthazar shrugged. It matters to him. It's so hard for him to believe that anyone cares about him. This is a little sacrifice to make to beat back those dark thoughts. Christian tightened the hold he had on Balthazar's left arm.
I'm proud of you nonetheless. What you're doing really matters.
Balthazar studied the back of Caemorn's very erect form. He remembered the panic and desire for Balthazar to lock him up before he hurt anyone. Callie had come to Iros. Caemorn had come to Balthazar. What if I had done this before all of the troubles? Balthazar suddenly said. I knew how fragile Callie was. I could have done things to make them happy, and none of these terrible things would have happened. Christian was quiet for a moment, thinking about this, and then said,
You've been there since it counted. Seer would have come to you if it could have been changed.
You're right, but it feels like a cop-out, Balthazar admitted. The truth is that I feel like I might have been a bully. Christian's eyebrows rose.
What do you mean? You're not.
I was the popular boy, goading the goth kid in class. The one that wrote poetry and thought about death way too much and dressed in black. Balthazar grimaced. The very nature of Callie makes people reject them. Death for a vampire? It's like oil in water. I could have helped others accept and understand them, or just made Callie feel not so damned alone. And I didn't. Christian considered this too.
But they came to you when they needed help. They knew you would help them.
I have to do better this time, Christian, Balthazar said. Christian just tightened his arm around Balthazar's. A wave of love came from his child. Balthazar bathed in that warmth, that acceptance, that pride. Caemorn glanced back at them as if he heard their thoughts, but he didn't. He just knew them. Balthazar made a face at him. Caemorn rolled his eyes. The hall was led to another room that jutted off from the palace. It was 2 stories tall and was well lit with golden light. It too appeared inviting, and he found his steps quickening. Caemorn's eyebrows lifted when he saw how close Balthazar and Christian were.
It appears there's a library in here.
Caemorn turned and opened a set of mahogany doors with beautiful stained glass insets that showed the twin moons of Everdark.
Why do you sound surprised there's a library?
Christian laughed, never seemingly finding Caemorn's words insulting.
Because with your ability to read minds, how could books ever be satisfying or useful? Books are a medium to get across ideas, and you have access to the unfiltered source material.
Caemorn answered as they swept inside the 2-story library. Caemorn's answer completely deflated any balloon of outrage that Balthazar was filling with his earlier statement, so he could now just appreciate the space. The first floor of the library didn't just have shelves on the walls, but like a library, there were shelves situated a few feet from one another. There were also sofas, chairs, and cozy nooks to sit and read, with the obligatory fireplaces. The second story had shelves lining the walls. A vampire could have easily jumped up to the second story, but there were narrow brass and wood staircases to the second floor. The bookshelves were also made of mahogany and were polished to a high shine. In between them were more of the stained glass windows.
These books are in perfect condition,
Christian said, as he took one out of a shelf and paged through it.
No sign of aging at all. And they're in English, modern English.
Balthazar snorted. Okay. Daemon is magic. That is the only explanation for this.
The information in these books, though.
Christian bit his lower lip and lowered himself blindly into a chair as he started to read.
It's not modern. Archaeological ruins and fascinating.
Looks like we've lost Christian, Mephi. Balthazar kissed the top of the sleeping kitten's head.
Balthazar?
Caemorn said his name so strangely that Balthazar's head snapped towards the Callie vampire. Caemorn was standing in front of a fireplace. He took a scroll that had been laid on top and sealed with wax. He held it out so Balthazar could see.
It's addressed to both of us,
Caemorn said. In reality, it had their symbols beautifully inked on the scroll. But Balthazar knew that Caemorn was right. It was meant for Iros and Callie's eyes only. Balthazar came over to Caemorn.
I believe you have to touch it as well, in order for the seal to break.
Caemorn murmured. Balthazar could see the Callie death's head with a crown that was glowing. He touched the scroll, and the symbol for Iros flashed red. The wax seal suddenly split open, and the scroll unrolled in Camorn's hands. The scroll read, "If you are reading this, it means our insane plan worked, and that we are friends." I don't know which fact is more unbelievable. Both Camorn and Balthazar snorted at this. Their gazes met one another, and both then smiled. They looked back down at the scroll and kept reading. "Callie has just corrected me, and they are right that the plan has worked so far. But there is more to do to return Callie to wholeness. This task can only be accomplished by the two of us, of you, together.
And it will require utter trust between you."
Now do you see why my disbelief? Balthazar felt a chink of light in Camorn's mental defenses for a moment, an objection to those words, but it shut down again. He reminded himself of what Christian had said. It was a start. He had to hang on to that. And as he read the scroll further, he realized how necessary that was. But we have to find a solution. If you are up to the task, here is the way forward. Join us next time for episode 138, Promises.
In Everdark, Camorn started as the villain that you love to hate, and then became many people's favorite character as Camorn's complex and painful backstory came out. It turns out that my readers love a redeemed villain even more than I do, and my members demanded that Camorn get his own love story. That's exactly what I'm doing in Everdark Equinox, the third installment in the Everdark story world. If you love Camorn, you will love not only Everdark Academy, the completed second installment, where he's a main character, but Everdark Equinox, where he literally meets his other half. While you really do need to read Everdark Academy first, you can at least check out the beautiful artwork of Camorn and Quinn we have so far, and there will be more. Link to the story art is in the notes.
Last on Everdark, Balthazar, Christian, and Camorn pick out Camorn's runes, even as what they are really doing is quite a bit more than that. They find a scroll from Iros and Callie with a potential solution to putting Camorn back together again. We return back to Julian and Damon in the Vampire King's palace. Episode 138, Promises. The next section of the podcast has been edited out to keep it suitable for a general audience.
Our suite is 3 floors? You said that earlier.
Julian asked. Yes, this floor is where I greet guests. The second is where I prepare and dress. The third has the bed and pool with a retractable roof so I can gaze up at the stars when it's not raining, Damon admitted. Though with the Asher bloodline gift, I can create a force field that keeps the rain off. Julian turned in his arms, eyes wide.
Seriously?
Yes. That is when I don't use the Horus bloodline gift to banish rain clouds and bring about clear night skies. Damon answered with a faint smile. Julian could feel Damon's pleasure at his amazement at the scope of the gifts. But I do love a good rainstorm.
Me too,
Julian admitted, feeling a kind of thrill when he heard thunder in the far-off distance. The storm will arrive later, when we're ready to sleep, Damon told him, answering his question before he asked it. Look around, Julian. We will make love after you satisfy your curiosity. Damon released him and stepped back as if to somehow lessen the pull he had on Julian. To be honest, it was hard to move away from Damon. Julian had noticed that. He thought it was just an emotional reaction to being away from a new lover. Not that he'd ever experienced it before, even in the full thrall of attraction with anyone else. But now he had a feeling it was more basic. He was Damon's child. He realized then, more than before, that Damon could have controlled him like a puppet. But the Vampire King was remarkably hands-off.
It's part of why I love you,
Julian found himself saying, as if they were having this conversation and it wasn't something just in his head. But Damon nodded, understanding. We're alike, Julian. There would be nothing worse that I could do to you than to crush your spirit. It would crush mine as well.
Even when I make mistakes? Potentially bad ones?
Julian didn't know why he was asking. He already knew the answer, but it was calming to have it confirmed. Yes, even bad ones. You need to learn. You need to grow. Though you are a man already, there is still much out there that you need to experience. Damon stated easily. Now go explore. I'll wait here if you have any questions. Again, Julian felt that reluctance to leave Damon's circle of influence. He felt a bit like a toddler as he slowly turned from Damon to survey the room. He actually looked back over his shoulder to see that Damon hadn't moved, hadn't left him.
It's because of how we started here, right? This feeling?
Julian's voice crackled a little. Damon hesitated a moment, then nodded. Any child wants to be within their master's sight. You've been remarkably independent, but here, in a space that is uniquely mine, now ours, and considering our history, Damon broke off and lowered his head. I shouldn't have left you, even if you were dying, especially if you were.
You couldn't come, and I had to go.
Julian pointed out.
You were with me out there. That's how I found that club and Christian.
I will be forever haunted by what I did, Damon said softly. Julian rushed to him, cupping Damon's face and lifting it so that they were eye to eye. Damon's alien yet beautiful crimson eyes were fixed upon his. You don't need to comfort me, Julian. You shouldn't, Damon said firmly. I need to accept this as one of my bad mistakes.
But I'm okay. Everything's okay. It's better than that.
Julian cried, intent on making Damon understand that the hesitancy to be away from him was not a bad thing. Not really. He felt loved and safe when Damon was there, but he could do things on his own, as he had proved by going to Moonfall. He shared all of that with Damon. I was here when I heard you in my mind. That bond, that connection. Damon gave a full-body shudder. I was so surprised. I'm not often surprised. And Julian leaned in and peppered Damon's face with kisses.
You endured so much with the deaths of all those other people that you hope to spend eternity with. You can't judge yourself so harshly. I'm here. It all worked out. Well, it will. We have the rest of the Callies, my parents, and then humanity to deal with.
Don't forget the other vampires and immortals. Not everyone will be happy I'm back, or appreciate what I've done in revealing our existence, Damon remarked with a weak smile.
So we've got our hands full with the present and the future. Let the past be the past,
Julian suggested. Slowly, Damon nodded. He then turned his head towards Julian's right palm and kissed it softly. I was supposed to be comforting you.
We comfort each other.
Julian smiled broadly.
Walk with me. Don't stay here. Be with me as I see these things for the first time that are yours and loved by you.
Damon nodded again. Julian released his face, but reached down and threaded their nearest hands together.
Now let's see what you want your visitors to know about you, and how comfortable it makes them,
Julian said with a grin. He cast around.
You don't believe in walls, do you?
Why would one want to block these views? Damon asked with a broad, sweeping gesture. The floor was completely open. The outside walls were glass, and there were a few dividers, Julian would have called them, but not true interior walls. There were seating areas with wide, deep couches surrounding fire pits arranged throughout the space, so that every view could be captured. Several seating areas looked out at the city. There were splendid views of the other palaces and the grand courtyards. Julian glimpsed into airy galleries and other buildings. There were covered walkways, where people could glide between structures out of that pesky rain or snow. He could almost imagine the students that would come, wearing their academy uniforms, old and young, beautiful and ugly, but all intelligent and interesting in their own ways, racing through the streets to get underneath the almost delicate stone roofs.
The school will be in Nightvallen?
Julian asked. Yes, I'm still working on its design, Damon answered.
Still working? You're creating this place, aren't you?
Julian had turned narrow eyes upon his master. Damon just gave him a secret smile. I am dreaming about it.
That seems to be another power beyond Armageddon.
Julian protested. Damon hummed happily. Julian shook his head, realizing he likely wouldn't get much more out of Damon about that right now. Hand in hand, Julian led him towards the opposite wall of glass, but stopped short as he saw that the sectional walls were not just there to break up the flow of the space, but had other purposes. He realized that many of the walls had weapons on them, and not just any weapons, but magical weapons. The hair on the back of Julian's neck stood on end as the magic rolled down the blade of a longsword that hung on one of the walls with the hilt towards the ceiling, and the blade hanging Damocles-like towards the floor. The blade was almost 4 feet long and 3 inches wide, with a hilt and guard a mix of silver and gold, set with a single diamond at the end. The diamond was the size of a golf ball, and its facets twinkled at Julian as if daring him to stroke them. The blade was inscribed with symbols that glowed softly like moonlight on water. Symbols of all the bloodlines, Damon explained. He caught Julian's hand before it closed upon the hilt to bring it down. Reaper is a powerful weapon.
Reaper?
Julian asked. Damon nodded. 1 strike, 1 scratch from it, and one's opponent dies inevitably, even if they survive the battle. Julian shivered.
There must be a cost to wielding such a powerful weapon.
Yes, Damon answered, but he said no more, and his mind was blank.
Why do you keep it out like this, where anyone could take it?
Julian asked as he took a respectful step away from Reaper. Because I would want to know who is foolish or brave enough to touch it, Damon explained.
Good point.
Julian nodded. They started towards the other set of windows and crossed a rectangular open area where there was a multi-tiered chandelier over the entirety of the space. Julian looked up at the crystals hanging there and frowned. He thought the lights coming from inside them moved. A gift from Kali, Damon murmured. Julian swallowed.
Soul gems? Filled soul gems?
Indeed.
You could free these people,
Julian said with more passion than he had intended. But then again, how could he not be passionate when his parents were currently trapped this way? They're my enemies, Damon answered. Julian blinked and looked up again.
Oh, they...
They deserve to be where they are, Julian. You must trust me on this. Damon told him simply. Julian wanted to get out from under the chandelier, though.
What is this space used for? It looks big enough to dance in.
Not that he would want to dance underneath the ghostly glow of people's souls, enemies or not. It has been used as a more intimate place to dance than the grand ballroom, Damon said as they finally passed out from under the ghostly lights. They'd reached the far wall. Julian's steps quickened as they neared the far wall. This wall, of floor-to-ceiling windows, looked out upon the Everdark's vast forests. There were hills upon rolling hills of trees as tall as the California redwoods. Julian imagined an intricate root system connecting them all deep down beneath the earth. There weren't many trees, but simply branches of a single large organism. His vampiric eyesight allowed him to catch something grey and white loping along the edge of the forest nearest them before disappearing into the darkness. Werewolf, Damon said.
Like Tarn and Faroon,
Julian murmured.
But free.
For now, Damon remarked. Julian turned towards him and lifted an eyebrow.
You want a pet werewolf?
All serve the king in the Everdark. But no, if they come too close to the city, one of the vampires will capture or kill them, Damon explained. Without me fully present, the cities in the Everdark have become islands of safety in a sea of danger. The creatures here will settle down and will keep a respectful distance in time.
Do you think Tarn and Faroon are done with Kaymorn? He does have his bear now,
Julian remarked. Damon chuckled. No, I think his furry friends will be back, but they will negotiate much better terms.
Can they turn into humans or whatever?
Julian asked. Most of them have forgotten how to. The Werin vampires can sometimes ease them back into their former forms, but not often. Damon explained. They are not quite like your idea of werewolves. Julian turned back to the forest. If he stared hard enough, he thought he could see more things moving between the trees. There were places where the branches swayed far more than in the rest of the forest, and he thought something huge and likely monstrous, was walking there. He shivered, even as he felt a sense of utter safety. You are safe. None would dare breach my walls. And no, I am not being overconfident. Damon chuckled again. Off to the north was a mountain range with snow-covered peaks. There looked to be regular shapes on the peaks. Julian was reminded of At the Mountains of Madness by H.P. Lovecraft. Were the mountains hollowed out by creatures who built the homes within and without? He thought he saw a spout of fire rise from the highest peak, but it was gone so quickly that he couldn't be sure if he had seen it.
Those mountains,
Julian said, then paused. Yes? What of them? Damon sounded unconcerned.
does anyone or anything live there?
Julian asked. Once. Damon casually glanced back at the chandelier.
Oh?
I believe that some have crept back into those cavernous halls, Damon stated as he regarded the far mountain peaks with slightly pursed lips. His fangs, though, were out.
There are only 10 episodes left of Everdark, but you don't have to say goodbye. This is not the end of the story. It's not the end of the podcast either. After this comes Everdark Academy, which picks up right after episode 147 of Everdark. Everdark has 8 actors. Everdark Academy has 14 actors to play all the heroes, villains, and characters in between. We are blown away by the variety of talent that's gone into this production, and we're so excited to bring you 169 chapters more of this gay vampire soap opera in audio form starting in 2025.
Julian wondered if it was safe at all to wander the woods in the Everdark, or if he would be sticking within Nightvallen's walls. We will go out together, Julian, but there are always risks in the Everdark. It is wild and can never be altogether tamed. Damon answered him, rubbing his back.
You know, I was rarely afraid on Earth.
Julian admitted.
Except those few times when I felt something other nearby.
Julian showed Damon his bare forearm. There was goose flesh, and his hair was lifted on end.
You weren't kidding that the Everdark is dangerous.
It was then that Julian caught a glimpse of the glimmer of the twin moons on water in the far distance. He realized it was an inland sea, or perhaps an ocean, and if he squinted, he could see a port with ships far south. Julian excitedly pointed to it.
You have ships? Are there cities nearby you can sail to, or beyond the horizon?
Julian grabbed the front of Damon's shirt as he eagerly bobbed up and down. There is much to discover, Julian. Already thinking of your show?
Totally. I mean, I can just see it.
Julian pictured it.
I'll be near the mast, as Christian films me doing the opening, with the black water spread behind me and strange lands on the horizon. I'll tell our audience that we're heading to areas very few, if any, have seen, that there will be friends and enemies we'll meet, monsters that'll challenge our skills, and secrets galore to learn.
Will I be allowed on board, Captain Julian? Damon's smile was playful.
You can be my first mate.
Julian laughed. Then he went serious as he said,
Scientists are going to go crazy over this. My parents hadn't even gone into any of the buildings, and they were out of their minds with this place. But there's so much more than they ever realized.
I cannot wait to be properly introduced to them, Damon told him. Julian bit his lower lip.
You think Kaymorn will be able to bring them back?
I do.
I do too, actually.
Julian's head bobbed up and down. The movement stopped as he realized,
oh, Kaymorn knows he's Callie.
His eyes grew huge. Yes, he knows, Damon said.
But I wanted us to tell him.
Julian felt like a child that was denied opening a gift. He tried to put that aside, as what mattered was that Kaymorn knew, and was seeming all right with it. He and Balthazar are bonding. That is a good thing, Damon assured him. He touched Julian's chin. Besides, there will be much to talk about.
The two of them need one another, don't they? I mean, they're blood brothers. Not to mention Christian has powers that come from Callie.
Julian said, They do need each other. I was selfish in the past for not encouraging their friendship, Damon said slowly. But they are both outsiders among the other immortals. Callie is second only in power to me. Iros knew everyone's secrets and could control people. Not powers that make other powerful beings terribly comfortable.
No, I can see how that wouldn't serve them well. Not to mention their personalities.
Julian grinned.
I love Balthazar. He's puckish and irreverent, but I can tell that could have been seen as arrogance.
It was. Being reincarnated was good for Eiros, Damon stated. Not that I wished any bad things upon him, but it has made him kinder, I think. More grounded and responsible. He was rather a laughing god before. Now, he chuckles.
He pretends he doesn't care, but it's clear he does a lot.
Julian agreed. And Callie was always dour and quick to reject others before they had a chance to reject them, or simply not to engage at all. Damon pointed out.
So, you've matched the extrovert with the introvert.
Julian's eyebrows lifted. Might have. Damon lifted an eyebrow and then laughed. Definitely.
It's like Christian and I a little bit.
Julian stated. Yes, very much so. Shall we continue our tour? Damon offered his arm. Julian took it, and Damon led him over to a stairway to the second floor of the suite. The stairwell opened up into what was likely a clothes horse's dream matched with a spa. There were clothes everywhere. They were mostly black or white with occasional splashes of crimson and snowy greys. Some clothes were on racks, others were neatly hung up, but even more were sprawled over velvet-covered puffs, as if Damon had laid them there as he considered what to wear. Boots of every height, from ankle to near mid-thigh, mostly black leather, were stacked in rows. Their rich scent filled Julian's nostrils. Julian let out a delighted laugh as he saw the floor-length wolf fur coat that Damon was always wearing. Julian dashed over to it and picked it up before throwing it around himself.
It's here. How did it get here?
Magic. Damon chuckled. He cupped Julian's cheeks. It looks quite good on you.
I feel like a little kid in his dad's clothes, but it is comfy.
Julian leaned against Damon's chest as he looked around at all the other clothes.
Will you wear any of your modern clothes you got?
Of course. But aren't you fond of leather, silk, and fur? Damon asked.
I have nothing against it, but you do look pretty incredible in a suit.
Julian admitted. I will keep that in mind. Looking around at the whole floor, which was just filled with all things wonderful, and Damon, Julian quipped,
I don't think there's enough space for my things here. We might need another floor.
Whatever you want, my child, Damon murmured. Julian's eyebrows rose.
Are you going to dream of another floor for my stuff? Because I don't have many clothes, but a place to edit and to study would be nice.
You can have whatever you want, Damon promised him. Julian felt that familiar, yet would it ever be truly familiar feeling of being treasured, yet slightly alarmed at what Damon would do for him.
I need to be careful what I wish for,
Julian said. Not in the least. You could not be spoiled, Damon assured him as he stroked his fingers down Julian's neck again.
Really? Because I'm pretty sure that you're giving me anything I want.
You hardly ask for anything. I will have to tease out of you like a single string from a garment what you want, Damon insisted. Julian ducked his head.
Believe me when I tell you, Damon, that having my parents back, my best friend with me forever, and you, it's more than enough. I don't need anything else.
Damon leaned in and kissed his forehead. It gives me pleasure to spoil you, so you must let me do it upon occasion, especially when it comes to making this space your own. Julian glanced around some more. Floor-to-ceiling mirrors studded the place. There was a deep soaking tub installed on the floor. There was also something that looked like a massive shower. There were settees where Damon could sprawl out, not to mention massage tables. Julian imagined running his hands over Damon's magnificent body. Then he imagined Damon running his large hands over Julian's body. Both ideas were quite brilliant. Damon stroked one hand down Julian's spine and his red eyes smoldered. Shall we see the top floor? Damon's voice was smoky.
Yeah, I think so.
Julian sounded breathless. He felt heated. Damon took him by the hand once more and they ascended to the top floor of the palace. Julian gasped.
How can this be here? We just talked about it.
Julian cried. The room was divided into two parts. In one was a massive bed that was covered in cool grey bedding and tons of plump pillows that almost called for Julian's head to be laid down upon them. There was nothing else in the space. No artwork, no weapons, no mirrors. It was a space of calmness, of peace, of complete rest. And Julian knew that looking up at the stars from that bed with his head nestled on Damon's chest would be beyond divine, and the fact that they could sleep with the roof retracted without fear of the sun was stunning. But it wasn't that perfect bedroom that called to him. It was the other part of the room that faced the forests, mountains, and sea beyond. It was nearly a replica of his father's study back on Earth, except it was sleeker with monitors and powerful computers and cameras and scanners, and it was everything he and Christian would need to work here. Julian advanced over to it and touched the U-shaped desk. The wood was smooth under his fingertips and familiar with scratches he remembered making. The electronics smelled faintly of ozone. He recognized them. They were his computers. There were bookcases that formed the room for his work. They didn't, of course, block that incredible, inspiring view. They were from his home on Earth, but there were also new volumes that dared his fingers to open them. Julian turned around to see Damon leaning negligently at one of the bookcases, smiling.
How?
Julian asked simply. The Everdark provides for her prince. Damon answered. It was brought here.
How?
Julian laughed.
Through a gate? By whom? You? When?
You wish it were here, do you not? Damon asked. Julian nodded. He had actually been regretting not going back to his and Christian's house before they left. But that had been impossible because of the humans. There weren't exactly electronics stores in the Everdark, so he had hoped to cobble something together from the things that Balthazar's people brought. But these were his and Christian's things. He realized they were even their go-bags.
Were my clothes downstairs as well?
Julian asked. They're being brought by Balthazar's people, so there was no need to short-circuit that process. But everything from your home that you want will be here when you need it, Damon answered. Julian shook his head, amazed, stunned, and not sure if he could believe this was happening. Damon came to him and put his hands on Julian's shoulders. What you need, whatever you want, you will find here. This is your home now, Julian. Fully and completely. Julian embraced Damon.
My parents, they'll find their things here too, won't they?
They will be taken care of, Damon assured him. Julian shut his eyes for long moments. He couldn't believe that such joy was his. When he opened them, he saw over Damon's shoulder that through sliding doors there was a huge corner terrace with views of the city and forest. There were comfortable chaise lounges and low tables. Julian could easily imagine sprawling on them, but there was something even better than those things. Two things, actually.
Pool,
Julian murmured.
And a hot tub. That's a nice addition.
I'm glad you approve. Damon murmured against his throat. The vibrations of those lips against his skin had a pleasurable shiver running through Julian. With a playful grin, he said,
You did promise to make love to me in that pool, didn't you?
Damon held him closer. And I always keep my promises. Join us next time for episode 139, Under the Moons and the Stars.
What else do you get as a member of WraithRain.com besides the unedited audio versions of Everdark, Dragon's Reign, and The Sexy Times or Empire of Stars? I write a lot of stories. Far more than Dragon's Reign and Everdark. Everdark is just one of my gay, romantic, epic-length adventures. Since 2010, I've written long gay romance web novels with hot heroes falling in love with each other, whether it's honorable elven warriors, fierce dragon shifters, sensual mermen, fallen angels and demons, and reincarnated immortal vampires. When you join, you can read all of these on my serial membership site. The completed stories are there in full for you to read as fast as you want, and the ongoing stories get 3 chapters every week, so I can torture you with cliffhangers. I mean, entertain you, not torture. Cat, who wrote this script? But don't worry, you can tell me exactly what you think of that in the comments at the end of every chapter. As a member, you can be in my own personal peanut gallery. There's also manga. My first foray into romance was actually yaoi manga, and since the very beginning, I've collaborated with artists to create both Western and Asian graphic novels that are posted one page at a time in the members-only area. Even if you're not a manga person per se, when you're a member, you get them free. So why not check out the amazing detailed work of our artists while waiting for me to post the next chapter? If this sounds interesting to you, try us out for a month. The link to sign up is in the notes. The most you'll pay is $9.95 a month, and you'll be directly supporting us, real people, not big corporations like Amazon or Netflix, not content created with AI. Wraith Rain is a small team of actual humans doing the best we can to transport you with romantic action and adventure stories. We really thank you for your support. Hey guys, it's Wraith here. I have a little bit of bad news. So, chapter 139 is too sexy for the public podcast. We had to cut the entire thing. But I never want you to miss any of the story, so I normally have a little summary here. However, chapter 139, titled Under the Moon and Stars, is rather literal as Julian and Damon enjoy their new pool on top of the royal palace. It is all fun, sexy times and has no plot whatsoever. Of course, if you would like to hear all the uncensored chapters, you can sign up for a membership at wraithrain.com. There's a link in the description down below. And you can listen to the entirety of Everdark right now. You don't have to wait to find out what happens, and you can go back and listen to all the other uncensored chapters too. This, of course, helps us make more incredible, gay, romantic content that you won't get anywhere else. And of course, you can also purchase the audiobooks as well from our shop. And there's going to be a link down below to that too if you'd like to own your own copy. Again, thank you so much for being a listener of Wraith Rain. We so appreciate all of you and cannot express how much your support means to us. See you next week.
Last on Everdark, Julian and Damon have a very good time in their new pool. We now turn back to Christian and Balthazar. Episode 140, In Your Soul.
Do you think it'll work?
Christian asked Balthazar.
The plan against the other Callies?
His master was stalking around their bedroom suite. They dropped Caemorn off in his rooms just a hallway away from them. Caemorn had swept past them with a curt good night. But even without reading Caemorn's mind, Christian knew that even that much acknowledgement from the Callie vampire was huge. Sleep well. Sweet dreams. Call if you need something. Balthazar had called after Caemorn, who hadn't acknowledged the teasing. But now that they were alone in their rooms, Balthazar seemed agitated. He'd bounced on the gorgeous dark wood four-poster bed, sniffed the high-count cotton sheets in the fluffy duvet, gone out onto the large deck where there were countless pots of roses in between the comfortable lounges and the extra-large hot tub that bubbled away and let out a pleasant haze of steam. Balthazar had poked into one of the huge closets that was a whole room in itself. It smelled richly of cedar and looked to have a place not just for tops, bottoms, sweaters, shoes, but also for cufflinks, watches, and wallets. Once more evidence of modern sensibilities. He'd gone out of the closet, gone back in again, back to the bed, back to the closet, back onto the deck. Then he'd repeated the course about 5 times. Mephi had left his shoulder in a huff because Balthazar kept moving. Mephi was now curled in a tiny ball on a large pillow on the couch by the fireplace in a sunken sitting area. Christian scratched between the kitten's ears, and a faint rumbling sound rose up.
You seem a little anxious,
Christian remarked. Damn difficult? Near impossible? Why would I doubt that I can control each of the other Callies? I mean, it's not like the last time I tried to do that I nearly got shredded. Balthazar let out a shrill laugh. But, oh, wait! I'm not just supposed to control just these other Callies. but change all of their minds that joining together under Daemon's banner is a good idea. Their idea. Yes. What would be easier than that? Christian winced at Balthazar's very accurate description of what the letter had said in regards to instructions of what to do next.
But you won't be alone. I'll be with you.
Oh, no, you will not.
You can't do this alone. You'll need backup. If not me,
Christian grimaced.
then Damon, of course.
It won't work if it's Damon. Letter said that. Seer is so unfun. Balthazar sighed heavily as he circled a chair, unable to stand still, let alone sit down.
I wonder if it helps us knowing the future, or if it's just stressful.
Christian murmured. If we were to act rationally, without Seer's visions, we would leave everything up to Damon, but that would hardly be fair. Balthazar's hands flew up in the air like a startled flock of birds before falling abruptly to his sides. Besides, it's not right that he should do everything. This is the doing of the other immortals. It should be handled by us.
Can't we just hunt the other Callies down and have Caemorn absorb them like he did with Artemis Callie?
Christian suggested. He'd only caught parts of the letter from Balthazar's mind, but from the way that Balthazar shook his head fiercely, he obviously had missed the important bits. The other Callies have gone mad. Unless their minds are fixed before Caemorn absorbs them eventually, he will start to fracture like that. Balthazar explained, and his hands tightened into fists. He really would become mad and evil. Christian shivered.
Having him absorb them at all seems wrong.
I think he has to, Balthazar said, because if he doesn't, that might lead to another kind of fracturing. He's not complete. He needs to be. Christian nodded and petted Mephi some more to calm himself.
Then you and he will make this happen. The two of you are worth more than all of those other Callies.
Balthazar busted his cheek with a kiss before stalking outside again. Balthazar undid the laces on his shoes to stick his feet into the hot tub. Balthazar frowned at the bubbling, steaming water. How can there be a hot tub here? Balthazar asked. Or electricity for the lights, and all when there are no power plants or whatever there should be?
Magic.
Christian deadpanned. Balthazar's head shot towards him at warp speed, and his master's mouth opened in shock. You, my little scientist, are just going to say magic, and not tell me how such magic apparently has no rhyme or reason or—
Oh, I will investigate this.
Christian assured him.
But that's something that can wait. I can take an eternity to investigate it, but you can't take an eternity to help Caemorn against Callie. So that's more important to focus on, though I admit this is all quite perplexing and exciting.
Balthazar slipped off his socks, tucking them into his shoes before carefully rolling up his pants leg. It was Christian's turn to frown.
Why don't you just take off your pants? Or all of your clothes?
Christian asked. Balthazar paused in his careful rolling. He opened his mouth, then shut it, then opened it again. Because
This is our home. Our second, my third home. We're not going anywhere for a while, so take off your clothes and stay a while.
Christian suggested as he started to do just that.
Hey guys, it's Wraith here again. Chapter 140 has Balthazar calling Christian a snuggle snack. And if that doesn't alert you to what's going on in the censored portions, I don't know what will. But the parts we had to edit out for the public podcast involve Christian putting Balthazar at ease as the Iros vampire grows tense, thinking of how this plan will come together with the Callies. But don't worry, Christian manages to turn Balthazar into a puddle of sentient goo. Of course, if you would like to hear all the uncensored chapters, you can sign up for a membership at wraithrain.com. Link in the description down below. And you can listen to the entirety of Everdark right now. You don't have to wait to find out what happens, and you can go back and listen to all the other uncensored chapters too that you might have missed out on. This, of course, helps us make more incredible gay romantic content that you won't get anywhere else. You can also purchase the audiobooks as well from our shop, and the links for that are down below too, if you'd like to own your own copy. Again, thank you so much for being a listener of Wraith Rain. We so appreciate you and cannot express how much your support means to us. See you next week.
Last on Everdark, Christian and Balthazar had a very good time in their new bedroom in the Iros Palace in the Everdark. We now turn to Caemorn as he prepares to attempt to bring back the Harrows. Episode 141, Return. The next night, Caemorn swept down the streets of Nightvallen towards the Kali Palace. Balthazar prattled on beside him. Christian was quiet, but smiling happily. He didn't seem to mind the chatter. In a way, it was a relief that Balthazar never expected anyone else to talk. It allowed Caemorn to collect his thoughts and mentally prepare for bringing back the Harrows. Their soul gems were in his front pocket. Many Kali vampires had arrived in Nightvallen the evening before, but they had found the Kali Palace closed and locked to them. No one had been able to get in. Caemorn could already see Lisette, hands on childish hips, watching him, Balthazar, and Christian approach. "You really did lock them out?" Balthazar sounded delighted. Obviously, making love with Christian and a peaceful rest had put him in a very good mood. Caemorn had actually rested quite nicely in his rooms as well. Nightvallen was restful.
I did. There are traps in the palace.
Caemorn answered. "Really? You wanted to protect them from those pesky traps, did you?" Balthazar's lips twitched. "Well, you just wanted to assert your dominance, Caemorn." Balthazar chuckled happily. "Are you going to tell them you're Kali?"
Yes.
Balthazar let out a bark of laughter. "Excellent!"
You think they won't obey me?
Caemorn let a brief frown flash on his face. "Oh, they will. They absolutely will. But I think each of them had hoped to be top dog instead of you," Balthazar explained. "You were the preceptor. Now you're an immortal. That's an upgrade."
Yes.
"I love these one-word answers. So elucidating." Balthazar, though, still sounded unfazed.
But you love hearing yourself talk far more than me.
Caemorn murmured. Christian let out a laugh.
Oh, he's got you there, Balthazar.
True. Balthazar was unrepentant. "I am so looking forward to seeing this showdown. Go out front, Caemorn. Meet your people." He pushed Caemorn ahead of them while giggling evilly. Lisette stepped in front of Caemorn. She pointed to the Kali Palace.
It's locked.
She said.
Yes.
He answered, continuing on his one-word, though very clear answers, which had Balthazar chuckling.
Every other palace with flames lit is open.
She pointed out.
Yes.
The flame is burning above Kali Palace.
Lisette pointed to the eternal flame.
Yes.
Ergo, the Kali Palace should be open, but it is not.
She said. Your point? Caemorn lifted an eyebrow.
You are close to King Damon. You must get us an audience to speak with him. Kali has evidently locked the palace somehow against us.
She said.
Perhaps for some nefarious purpose. Why are you grinning like a cat, Balthazar?
She snapped the last part at the Iros vampire. No reason. No reason at all. Balthazar had crossed his arms behind his lower back and swayed like Sophia. Lisette's eyes narrowed at him.
I see.
She focused again on Caemorn.
My additional point was that you should not bother trying to get in, though I am surprised to see you here so late, because the palace is closed to us.
It is closed to you,
Caemorn stated, and brushed past her. He left her blinking, but she started after him with Christian and Balthazar trailing behind. He walked up the steps until he was right before the doors of the Kali Palace. He stared at them for a long moment.
I told you, Caemorn, that it's locked. It's not going to open because of your ego.
Lisette hissed with a wave of her hand in dismissal. It's all right, Caemorn. Balthazar's voice was clear in his mind. Do it. Tell them who you are. It's time. There was no amusement or looking for fun in this. It was like someone giving his shoulder a squeeze. Caemorn drew in a deep breath and turned to face his people. At the same moment, the flame on top of the Kali Palace blazed 20 feet high, and there was an audible clunk as all the locks of the palace opened. The group of Kali vampires in front of the palace had the flames reflected in their eyes as they let out audible gasps. Then those gazes fell to him as the doors swung open. Some tried to crowd forward, but Caemorn lifted a hand, and they stopped. Confusion furrowed brows and narrowed silver eyes. Pale heads turned to the people beside them to see if anyone else was experiencing what they were, which was them being unable to disobey him. Caemorn's eyes slid to Balthazar, who, with Christian, was standing a step below him. Was he giving a little help? Balthazar looked at him blandly, perhaps too blandly.
What's going on here, Caemorn?
Lisette asked as she moved to the head of the Callies.
You're not the preceptor anymore.
I am not.
Caemorn agreed with her.
Callie is your master, and you served him closest of all. So you should hardly be in charge of anything.
Lisette listed off all of the reasons why he was unworthy to be here.
All correct.
Caemorn continued to agree with her, even though there were caveats. Now that he had absorbed Artemis Callie, and who knew if the soul of the real Artemis could be recovered and placed within that body again. But that wasn't important to explain quite yet.
So why did the flames rise and the doors open for you?
Lisette asked, gesturing towards the palace.
He must still be serving Callie.
Someone shouted. Oh, no! He took out Artemis Callie, Balthazar said with a laugh that had the Callie vampire staring.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Balthazar.
Caemorn replied dryly, and he was both grateful Balthazar had and annoyed that he had, which was par for the course with Balthazar. But it was also par for the course that Balthazar could read the room and know what had to be said. So he realized his annoyance was irrational and part of his shame and need to control all things. But he didn't have to. Christian and Balthazar had his back.
What do you mean? How could you? Artemis is Callie, an immortal.
Lisette's forehead furrowed.
Artemis was a copy, a slice of Callie, if you will. The real Artemis's soul was replaced at some point long ago, and Callie used his body. Roan Tithe was also a slice of Callie.
Caemorn slowly explained. Every set of silver eyes were upon him. No blinking, no breathing, just complete focus.
You've got this,
Christian whispered in his mind.
They already know. They're just waiting for you to confirm it.
There are over a dozen of these slices that Callie allowed to be split off from themselves before the war.
Caemorn continued.
These other Callies started to go mad.
Even though it had not seemed like they were breathing before, it felt like there was a collective intake of breath. Madness for Callies was common. It was a risk, not quite as bad a risk as it was for seer vampires, but it was seen as a weakness if a Callie vampire went mad. It meant that they were unfit to understand the great secrets of the universe that were granted to them, to admit, or perhaps confirm that Callie had gone mad was to some, saying that Callie was weak. To others it made them afraid that if Callie could fall into insanity, then all of them could.
They refused to be integrated to avoid this fate. And after a time it was impossible for the true Callie, the core of Callie, to accept them back.
Caemorn explained, and he went quiet. His eyes slid to Balthazar, who was looking out coolly at the crowd. He was certain that the Iros vampire was reading every mind, looking for every objection, determining how to counter it. Balthazar was doing this for him, because making sure that he kept power in his own bloodline was not something that Balthazar needed to do in order to stop his other selves. It would be a fit punishment if he lost everything, considering what he had cost everyone through his experimentation. It was a mistake, Balthazar said.
You didn't intend for any of this to happen,
Christian added. You're fixing it. It's all you can do, Balthazar concluded.
And then
Caemorn swallowed.
the core Callie died, killed in the war.
The Callie vampires were all statues. They didn't think this death was a bad thing. It was the ultimate adventure, the ultimate experiment, that he had come back. You're a rock star, Caemorn, Balthazar chuckled. You got it now. You came back. You returned from a place that they haven't and can't go, and returned.
You're their leader,
Christian stated.
as you should be.
But all of this was part of a plan.
Caemorn said, the words suddenly slipping through his lips like silk.
Iros, Sia, and me put it together. We knew that 2 of us would die. Sia would be imprisoned. Terrible things would be done in the war and after. Iris and I would return and not know ourselves for a time. We wouldn't remember what we were supposed to do, but now we do remember. We do know. And we have started the end game.
You?
Lizette murmured. Caemorn's eyes swept the crowd. It had grown as he had spoken, as more and more Callies heard the palace was open, and that it had opened for him. They were waiting on the next words, but those words didn't come from him. Yet it was so perfect from where they did come from. Callie, I hope you do not mind if Julian and I join you for your preparations to return the Harrows. I have always learned much watching you extend the range of your gift. And there it was. In a simple greeting, all doubt was taken away. All understanding was in place. He was Callie. He was Callie. Everyone turned to see the Vampire King and his prince standing at the back of the crowd, arm in arm. Julian's eyes were lit with hope and excitement. He would get his parents back.
We should have told you right away, Caemorn,
Julian sent.
Can you forgive us for not doing so?
There's nothing to forgive. Was I why you and Christian were so happy when you returned from Moonfall?
Caemorn asked, and then immediately regretted it. He knew better than to ask questions that would have bad answers.
Caemorn, yes, of course, yes. You told me, showed me our friendship, and how much it's enhanced both of our lives.
Julian told him, and the warmth just flowed like honey through him.
I knew then that everything would not only be okay, but it would be fantastic. Can you feel it too? How you were, how you actually will be?
I can...
Caemorn blinked and looked down. Emotions that he was not used to dealing with were rising up from inside of him. Emotions were dangerous for a Callie vampire, especially tender ones like these.
King Daemon, Prince Julian, we of the Callie bloodline are honored to have you both with us.
Caemorn said.
It would be my pleasure to show you all that I do. There are no secrets between us.
And that last sentence was huge in terms of the Callie bloodline, which hid everything from everyone. But from Daemon, he realized, there had never truly been anything secret or hidden. The truth was that he didn't want to hold anything back from this being. Like with Balthazar, it would be safer if he didn't, just in case things went badly.
This serial audiobook is supported by our paying subscribers and people who buy books and audiobooks in our own shop. Enough people keep giving us money so that the Wraith Rain team can keep paying their rent and publishing this story free on YouTube and Spotify. If you want to support us and you would like to hear uninterrupted, uncensored chapters, join our subscription for a month or two. You get access to all the audio chapters we've published so far. Yes, all of them. This includes Everdark, Dragon's Reign, The Night Prince, and whatever else we've been up to since recording this. The chapters are uncut and uncensored. You get exactly what I wrote on the page. No breaks, no cuts to the content to make it Disney safe. Link to the sign-up form is in the notes.
They are not going to go badly. You would have told Christian and Julian in the future, Balthazar said.
True,
Caemorn agreed. The two of them moved through the crowd that parted for them like water. They all bowed, and some went down to their knees. Julian hopped up the final steps to him and embraced him just before Caemorn was going to bow. He accepted the hug as he always did, awkwardly. They broke apart, and Julian went to embrace Balthazar and Christian with ease. Daemon was standing in front of him, and Caemorn felt like a deer in headlights. Should he embrace Daemon? Or should he bow again? To hug would likely be too familiar, and that Daemon embraced him. Caemorn was very still. He wasn't sure if it was shock, or rather just shock, or if he was afraid that if he moved, that Daemon would be offended and end the hug prematurely. Maybe Daemon would never hug him again. Not that he was a hugger. How had he gone from being a ruthless preceptor to reduced to marshmallow with a single embrace? Daemon moved back, but still kept a hold of his biceps to look at him as if the Vampire King were a proud parent. Caemorn was frozen again. Daemon laughed affectionately and patted his arms. I am so excited to see what you will do tonight, Callie, Daemon said.
There is enough power stored here for it to be successful.
Camorn replied. He stopped himself from hedging. He did not hedge. He would be able to do this. It will be. I have faith in you, Callie, Damon told him. A final squeeze, and Camorn was released. He caught sight of Lizette at that moment. The normal, scheming, distrustful and disdainful expression was missing from her face. Damon's actions towards him had stripped away all of her disbelief. He met Damon's eye and realized that, again, like with Balthazar, Damon had done it for him. Damon could have let his own actions hang him with his people. He could have let Camorn crash and burn, but he hadn't. After everything, he hadn't. You're really going for that vampire look for your parents, aren't you, Julian? Balthazar stated, taking in the black leather pants, form-fitting shirt and boots. Or are you trying to be Damon's mini-me?
Hey, I look good. Some of us don't want to rock the three-piece suits, Balthazar.
Julian stretched his arms to his sides to show off his attractive athletic form.
You look very handsome like always,
Christian said kindly.
Damn straight. See? My best friend has my back. Camorn, I look good, right?
Julian turned to him.
Your face is very symmetrical, and your body is the favored V shape, and the close-fitting clothes show that off.
Camorn told him. Balthazar snorted. Christian grinned. Julian laughed.
See? Another one. You're outvoted, Balthazar.
Julian said. I never said looking like a goth vampire is bad. But even if your parents didn't already know you were a vampire, they would once they caught sight of your outfit. Balthazar chuckled. Camorn felt the Callie's amusement with their leaders, but also their eagerness to get inside. He met Damon's eyes. It is up to you if you wish to let them in. Damon's mental voice was like a soothing balm, but there are plenty of other places they can be housed until you make your decision.
Thank you, but I have made my decision,
Camorn said.
However, I will have Balthazar scan them for bad intent before they enter.
Damon smiled broadly. These ones are loyal. They are just their normal, prickly selves. Get ready for them to want your favor and to bask in your glory.
I dread that,
Camorn said before he could help himself. Damon laughed and clasped his shoulder again.
Let us go in first, and then...
Camorn turned to the waiting crowd of Callie vampires.
All of you may enter the palace.
A wash of excitement went through all of them. He knew that quite a few of them had already seen the filled soul gems that were used to light the palace. A firm look at them, though, made it clear that they were not to disturb anything.
You may look around, but rooms will be assigned. And be aware that the palace is booby-trapped.
Camorn told them.
Do not make me have to bring you back for a third life.
There was a ripple of laughter. It was tittering and disbelieving. None of them would be so foolish as to be caught in a trap. Camorn sighed. The Harrows might not be the first he was having to bring back that night. Camorn gestured for Damon and Julian to go inside first. Julian looped one arm through Damon's, while Damon put a hand on Camorn's shoulder as they walked inside. Everyone gazed up at the soul gem ceiling as they passed into the main throne room of the Callie Palace.
There's one of these in Damon's palace,
Julian said of the soul gem chandelier.
It's amazing and
a little creepy. Balthazar grinned as he said it, though. The souls of our enemies. It is, to make a point. Damon said quietly. Everything with you, Callie, always has multiple layers of meaning. Nothing is left to chance. Camorn took them to the front of the room and the secret staircase. Cold air wafted up. It was tinted with power. Julian got a little nervous then and said,
We really don't want to disturb you if you need quiet and to be alone to bring back my parents.
Camorn smiled genuinely at him.
It will be good to have you there. You and Christian are their children. It will help anchor them in the bodies I construct.
How long is that going to take? With Heath, it took a dozen deaths and a lot of time, Balthazar pointed out as he stared at the stairwell with little desire to go down there and find out what's at the bottom. Camorn met Damon's eyes.
I believe the king himself will tell you that we do not need living sacrifices here. We already have all the power we need. Every part of the Callie Palace is imbued with power, and Damon was not yet himself fully when he sought to bring back Heath.
Meaning that you can do it more quickly without more death?
Christian clarified. Camorn inclined his head.
Indeed, I already feel the quickening in the palace. It is prepared for this.
Magic, Balthazar said with another of his grins.
You're wondering about the lack of power plants too,
Julian said with a snort. Yes, not that I'm caring, since everything works, Balthazar said.
And now, instead of just heat and light, the magic will create flesh and blood and bone,
Christian said with a touch of awe. Indeed, Damon said with a secret smile. Let us go down. Camorn led the way into the chamber beneath the throne room. It was not as he had left it. He stopped so abruptly that Balthazar bumped into him. Camorn, what's... Oh my goodness. Balthazar breathed.
What? What is it?
Julian's voice was tense.
Nothing is wrong.
Camorn assured him as he looked up the stairs to see Damon's eyes glowing like hot coals.
Come down. You must see.
He quickly moved into the room so that the others could filter in. That was so everyone could see. Julian rushed in and then stopped dead like he had as he saw what was there. On top of the smooth, white sarcophagi that held no dead inside were two figures made out of blue-white light. There was a woman and a man. Both were beautiful. They looked like they were sleeping. The forms were translucent, but Camorn knew that they were just waiting to take physical form.
How? Did you... Last night, did you do this?
Julian gasped as he moved over to each of those still figures and circled them. Don't touch them, Julian. Damon told him simply.
I was thinking of them all night. I pictured them lying here, ready to open their eyes.
Camorn looked over at Damon in shock. He had seen this, envisioned this, figured it would take time, but it was already done, but for the last step.
Did I do this?
Yes, Callie, you did. Don't you feel it? This is all you, Damon told him with a smile. Now, finish it. Camorn brought out the soul gems. They glowed as they neared the translucent forms. He put one in each hand and stood between the two potential bodies. He looked into Julian's frantic and hopeful face before shutting his eyes. He lifted his hands up above each of the figures' chests, and he started to feed energy from the palace into the gems and through them into the bodies. Though his eyes were closed, and he didn't see this, the others told him that golden light suffused the gems, making them glow so brightly in his clenched hands that they could see his bones through his skin. They told him they had to shield their eyes from the light. Well, all of them except Damon. The gems were fragile now, about to powder in his hands. No longer prisons. He lowered his hands until they were inside of the translucent forms and opened his fists. He felt the gems disintegrate and the souls get released. Instead of the souls going to that gate that was always nearby, they stayed in the bodies that rapidly became material around them. Camorn kept filling them with energy until people were gasping, and Damon said, "That's enough, Callie. You've done it." Camorn nearly collapsed, but Julian was there to catch him.
Of course you aren't. You just created two people.
Julian laughed slightly hysterically. His eyelids opened, and he saw two human beings lying on top of the sarcophagi. Their chests were rising and falling. Their hearts were beating. They were alive. Their eyes are still closed. Is that normal? Balthazar asked.
Yes, they're settling in. Give them a moment. Better yet, Julian and Christian, you should touch them.
Camorn got out.
First, we have to keep you on your feet,
Julian said, and Camorn felt a wave of warmth towards the young prince. He knew how much Julian wanted his parents, but he was worrying about Camorn first.
We will be friends. More than that, I will owe you my loyalty,
Camorn said.
You owe me nothing. You've given them back to me,
Julian said. Let me take him from you, Balthazar said, and easily slung Camorn's arm over his shoulders. They then shuffled out of the way of Christian and Julian. Julian's fingers flexed as he and Christian both stood between the bodies, facing one another.
We can do this, Julian. They're waiting for us. They want to wake up,
Christian said, and nodded as if hearing something. He confirmed that by saying,
I hear them. Their souls are calling to you.
To us.
Julian corrected.
Yes, to us.
Christian agreed with another nod. Julian stretched out his hands, so that when he lowered them they would land on his parents' bare shoulders. Christian did the same, though he would touch their hands. Julian breathed in deeply and glanced at Damon. The Vampire King smiled at him and nodded. It was time. Both Julian and Christian lowered their hands. There was an electric spark the moment that skin touched skin. The Harrows drew in sharp breaths as if emerging from deep water, and their eyelids flew open. They stared upwards at first, with no recognition in their eyes.
Mom? Dad?
Julian asked, his voice cracked. The Harrows blinked. Caemorn was holding his breath. He felt that Balthazar was doing so as well. Only Damon seemed calm. And then both parents turned their heads towards their son and Christian. Julian? Christian? Jack Harrow asked. Oh my God. Son! Christian! Jack Harrow cried.
You're back!
Julian was crying and smiling.
You're back!
Join us next time for episode 142, Confidence.
In Everdark, Caemorn started as the villain that you love to hate, and then became many people's favorite character as Caemorn's complex and painful backstory came out. It turns out that my readers love a redeemed villain even more than I do, and my members demanded that Caemorn get his own love story. That's exactly what I'm doing in Everdark Equinox, the third installment in the Everdark story world. If you love Caemorn, you will love not only Everdark Academy, the completed second installment where he's a main character, but Everdark Equinox, where he literally meets his other half. While you really do need to read Everdark Academy first, you can at least check out the beautiful artwork of Caemorn and Quinn we have so far, and there will be more. Link to the story art is in the notes.